What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Full House Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Warren.
I'm Tori.
And I'm Josh.
All right, this week we are going to cover some hype. The hype train.
The hype, baby.
The good hype, the bad hype.
The hype is right.
Sometimes.
And then
we're going to cover the hype when it's wrong, too.
Yeah. It gets a little dirty.
We're going to talk overhyped, underhyped,
and then the hype is right.
And then the hype is
just right hype.
Just right hype. Yeah, for sure. There's plenty in all categories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we'll definitely touch on that. But before we do, there's been a few little bits of news in what typically is a bit of a lull period before training camp starts. And I think probably the biggest news that's not, let's say the biggest news that's football related is the Deshaun Watson rumors. You know, a lot of people are coming out saying to expect a 4 to 6 game suspension.
That would be.
And there's
crazy.
Even people, I don't know the validity of this, but there's even reports that I'm hearing saying that he's going to get time served for last year. When he voluntarily sat out. And again, I don't know how much merit that is. I don't know the sources. I don't know any of that, but I'm hearing it through the grapevine that Deshaun Watson might get time served, which I think would be blasphemy.
Yeah, there's no way they can do that.
But even so, imagine a 4-game suspension changes the game big time.
Even 6 game is
even 6.
Not that bad.
Especially like we have an upcoming dynasty league. Like if you're doing a startup dynasty draft, like he goes from, you're not picking him in the first 6 rounds, probably if he's missing this whole season.
Or indefinitely.
If it's 4 games, he might go in the second round.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, what is he? 25.
Yeah,
he's obviously shown to be elite, top 5 elite, and he plays on not probably. He's going to be playing on the absolute best roster he's ever had around him.
Correct.
By far, in my opinion. I mean, the offensive line's night and day. Yeah, he had D-Hop in Houston, but other than that.
But he's got Amari now, so that's same.
He was playing with piss poor talent around him, a poor defense, a poor offensive line, no running back. So the Browns are going to be tough. And that division truly, other than the Steelers, who I think will still be relatively competitive just because they always are. Tomlin's their coach. Those 3 squads, I mean, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Bengals, man, that is a tough division. So it'll be interesting to see how it all ends up unfolding. But if he does, in fact, get 4 to 6 games,
I think 10 minimum. I just don't see any way that it's anything less than 10.
It's crazy that, I mean, I was talking to one of my buddies on the phone the other day, and he was like, how is he only going to get 6 games when freaking Calvin Ridley's going to get a whole year because he made like a $1,500 bet?
Well, I touched on that last time we talked about it, right? As I said, is there a correlation between the two?
Yeah. And I think kind of where we left off though was they're apples and oranges. Like one is outside of the field, you know, and if it's settled, it's settled. Correct. Convicted. And then the other one is a direct violation of the NFL policy and rules.
It couldn't be more spelled out, right?
Couldn't be more spelled out. You can't make bets on the game. So I get people are up in arms about it, and I get how they can differentiate them, but it's insane that someone makes a $1,500 bet for his team to win, gets suspended a whole year. The other guy rapes 40 women essentially, and they're like, 4 games.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, it just goes to show, I mean, I don't want to speculate too much, but I mean, I do feel like the role of Deshaun Watson in being valuable to the league has to play some form of role. It carries a little bit of weight, in my opinion. I mean, I just think,
now the question is when is the news going to come down of the actual official
and then the NFL is basically stating it'll come out when it comes out. There's no hey, fucking, August 1st, we'll find out. There's none of that. No. But the source, I don't know. I can't remember the guy's name, but the source is very reputable and respected amongst the football community. So I don't think there's really much to doubt in terms of his take on the 4 to 6 games. That's what he's hearing. So we'll see on that. Another football move, N'Keal Harry.
Yeah.
Fucking massive first round bust. Which, gosh, Belichick is such a poor fucking judgment of talent, especially at that position.
People were hyping him up coming into the draft. I never liked him because I never saw him get any separation in college at all. And I just don't. If you can't get separation in college, you're going to be blanketed in the NFL.
Well, I knew he looked like a good receiver. Like he looked like he had talent. I didn't think he was first round talent, but I could have seen him going like early second round. Like he has the talent.
Well, and now know the players that were drafted after him makes it hurt that much worse, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Justin Jefferson being, of course, the leader of that pack. But it's I don't know, man. I mean, they traded a 7th round pick for him. They basically got him for free.
It wasn't like a 2024 7th too. It wasn't even like for a couple of years.
Not even next year. So
that's insane.
I mean, it's basically free. I don't know if he was worth anything, but for a dart throw.
Yeah. I mean, no team needs him more. I mean, that team has 0 receivers. So
he definitely has the pedigree to be at least more deserving, I guess, based on his pedigree of a wide receiver 2 job than fucking Pringle.
Yeah. But now the question is does it affect like Mooney at all?
No.
You know, like, does it do anything?
Any implications. I still think he's undraftable in every single format. Maybe dynasty in the late round, you take a fucking stab at him.
Last pick or something. Yeah.
But I don't think there's fantasy implications of this move. It's just at this point in the offseason, we're reaching for anything we possibly can. If this happened during the year, I don't even think we'd know about it.
Yeah. No one would be rushing to the waiver wires to try to sign him.
Right.
Yeah.
So, not a big time move. And then
we had a Maker Bayfield move.
We didn't even touch on it, when it was breaking.
No,
but I'm also not
super
convinced he has any fantasy implications. He has fantasy implications on Sam Darnold, but
does it do anything?
Yeah, when we were doing our draft,
do you like DJ Moore anymore now?
I like him slightly more.
I do too.
I don't know if
not much
more enough to put him in this like top 15 category that a lot of people are talking about. Like, oh, it instantly puts him into the top 15. Dude, Baker played for the Browns with a fucking elite offensive line. Granted, he didn't have a lot of talent. DJ Moore will be the best receiver he's ever thrown the ball to, in my opinion.
You don't think when he had OBJ and Jarvis Landry, that's not talent?
Checked out. Okay, yes. It's just like Randy Moss when he played for the Raiders. He was not Randy Moss.
Yeah.
Right? He was a shell of himself, intentionally so.
And then he went to the Patriots and put up 50 touchdowns or whatever it was.
Right, because he was motivated. So Jarvis Landry, I mean, sure. But I'm just saying that DJ Moore has talent. Obviously, you got CMC as the best receiving back maybe since Marshall Faulk. And I don't know, man. I don't think Baker has a job even on lock anyway. Am I going to bet money that he's going to win the starting job? Yes, of course. But I wouldn't be shocked if they came out and just said, sorry, he looked like shit in training camp and Sam Darnold's our guy.
When we were doing our stack attack episode last week, when we were ranking our quarterback receiver stacks, I put Baker and DJ as like a sleeper kind of, potential sneaky stack.
Right.
Because I just, after initial gut reaction, I'm like, oh, this helps DJ Moore and Baker's solid. Like they should be like someone you kind of just have on the back burner, someone you kind of have in your mind. And then I started doing some research on like Baker and like looking at his fantasy finishes and looking like kind of what he's done in fantasy.
Nothing.
Not really anything to write home about. Like, I mean, he's never finished as a quarterback 1. He's always been that middle quarterback 2 to, quarterback 3 even.
Right.
And so it's just one of those things where I go, does it move the needle at all? Not really.
The X factor, I guess I would consider is Baker's kind of that guy with a little swagger.
Yeah.
And
a little chip
on his shoulder. And he comes out and plays the best football he's ever played. And it gives a little bit of a boost to DJ Moore. But here's the deal.
But what is the best football he ever played? Does it put him at 13?
No, I don't think he's top 15.
That's what I'm saying. Like the best football he's ever played, the highest he's ever finished is 16.
Right. And let's not forget, he's going to a team with a horrible offensive line.
Yeah.
DJ Moore and who, right? Like DJ Moore and CMC, yes, but their number 2 and Robbie Anderson is awful.
Yeah.
So like it's not like he's going to an organization that's going to set him up for success. If he would have gone to Seattle, I think this conversation would be much different. It would be much more intriguing with those weapons and that coach and things like that. Not that going to a Pete Carroll ran offense is that exciting. I'm just saying the Panthers are still the Panthers. I'm not convinced Baker's that big of an upgrade over Sam Darnold, but it is what it is. It'll be interesting to see.
Minor upgrade to DJ Moore, minor upgrade to Christian McCaffrey. In my opinion, that's
in week 1. The biggest upgrade is to week 1 football.
Yes.
Yeah.
When Carolina plays Cleveland.
The drama.
Cleveland. Yeah.
I mean, if for nothing more, that's going to make that week 1 matchup that I would have cared.
Yeah.
Is he someone that you guys are even touching in redraft?
No.
He's okay. That's what I figured. I mean, he's going.
I'm not even sure he's getting drafted in a 2-quarterback redraft league. I mean, like he's like one of the last starting quarterbacks that you would consider, in my opinion. So
I think you're going to take a shot on Davis Mills, over.
Oh yeah,
over him.
Sure. Another thing before we get on to one of the last bits of news is some beat reports coming out recently stating that not Juju, not Sky Moore, not McCole Hardman, but MVS is looking like the clear-cut alpha number one top talented wide receiver in that group. He's had quality reports in training camp before.
Yeah. I mean, he's a talented player.
He can't seem to catch the fucking ball.
This is less of to me, this is less of like an impression from MVS than it is like it's an indictment on the rest of the guys.
The rest of the
the rest of the guys. I hate
a lot
of
people are saying, right?
I hate all of them. I always hated Sammy Watkins. I think he's
in Green Bay now.
Who was the other guy you were talking about? So you got Sky Moore, you got
Juju.
Oh,
Juju and Mecole Hardman.
Mecole Hardman sucks.
He does.
He's never been able to get on the same page as he frustrates the fuck out of Mahomes when you watch those games. Yeah. Mahomes is trying to force him the ball, and he's just.
I mean, the only reason they drafted him is because he's fast, and they thought that Tyreek Hill was going to get suspended, so they reached on him just for the speed aspect to try to plug him in, and it just It was a gamble that didn't work.
Whatever that Stafford and Kupp have, and whatever that like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams had, the antithesis of that is what Mahomes has with that guy, because I've watched games where Mahomes just like, I can't do anything with you. Like I'm running around and I'm waiting for you to go to the right spot and you're never fucking there. And he just throws it away and he's just like fucking throws his hands up in the air. Like, Mecole Hardman has no idea how to play wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's fast. He has all the measurables, but he does not know how to come back to the ball.
He doesn't understand the position.
Yeah.
Yep.
I personally think Juju's the guy in that receiving room.
He should be on paper.
I think he will be.
He's going to see a lot of targets. Like MVS, he's going to be good for 750 and 6 touchdowns. He's going to have a few big plays, but like he fucking can't catch the ball, and he's proven to not be able to do so with an equally as elite quarterback.
Yeah.
Juju, he had his big year when Big Ben was relatively playing good football, and then he had some injuries and things like that, and he just hasn't gotten to form. But he's shown to be able to be elite in fantasy.
If you have some drops from, say, Josh Allen or Trey Lance or whatever, that's you give it like, but like when you're dropping the ball consistently from Aaron Rodgers, there's not a guy in the NFL that throws a more catchable ball than Aaron Rodgers. And that's like soft touch. It's just another knock. And it's just like, dude, like, come on. Like he's basically could go out there and hand it off to you. That's how
and just flicks his wrist and it just kind of
in stride right in your hands and you're dropping it.
He did time and time again. So
I think it's one of those things where, we're like, I don't know if this is going to be the same offense it is where it was, where like when he had Tyreek, he was willing to chuck it 60, 70 yards down the field because he knew he had that guy. I don't think he trusts Mecole. I don't think there's another burner on the team besides Sky Moore, who's a rookie, where I don't think he's going to be rolling around scrambling and chucking it 70 yards anymore.
And that might be the best thing for Mahomes.
Yeah. I think he's going to do a lot of these.
Remember when he was going through that stretch? I don't know if it was early last year or it was like
when everyone said we're going to stop the deep ball.
What is wrong with Mahomes? Every week that was the title. It was like, what is wrong with Mahomes? And it was that he was pressing too hard. He was trying to make big plays.
Being a try hard.
Yeah, he was trying to make big plays constantly.
Instead of throwing the ball to wide open Kelsey on a 10-yard fucking drag route, he was throwing the ball 75 yards.
And then what happened?
Tyreek Hill.
And then they figured it out. And they started doing the intermediate passing game, and they started doing back what they were doing.
What happened was the NFL caught up to that offense. So the first couple of years with Mahomes, they were playing backyard football. It was working. And then Tampa exposed them in that Super Bowl, played that cover 2 shell defense where they didn't allow anything over the top, no big plays. And they made Mahomes play small ball, and he couldn't do it because he wants to fucking make the big Madden plays.
Right.
And now teams have caught up to them, and now he's forced to play. And so maybe it's addition by subtraction by getting rid of Tyreek. Maybe that was part of their forethought of like, let's make him sit in and take the fucking check down, play it fucking slow.
Right.
And
that's where Juju's going to come in and shine. Like you said, Tori, I agree with you. I think Juju is going to be the wide receiver 1 in that offense.
He has to be.
He's also on a 1-year prove it deal. MVS got paid way more, in my opinion, than he should.
Yeah. It's gonna be a little more motivation from Juju.
Yeah. I mean, he wants to get paid. He's going to fight for that deal. And what better place to
Big Ben relied on him heavily. That. I mean, that's all he wanted to throw to that last season. Him and obviously Harris out of the backfield, but
yeah, he couldn't chuck it to Claypool down the field. I mean, he didn't have the arm for it. So
well, and then same thing with Deontay, right? Like he favored those timing guys. He just didn't have the arm anymore. Yeah. We'll see if Pat, can change his style of play to be a bit more conducive with guys that are not Tyreek Hill. Everyone is not Tyreek Hill. So we'll see how they can do that.
I think it's going to be a boring offense, actually, believe it or not, the Chiefs this year, because I mean, you look at Kelsey and Juju. I mean, they're both similar, like the way that they play. And it's like, what scares you as far as what are you worried about? Yeah, you need to play that cover 2 anymore.
Unless Sky Moore ends up playing to his ceiling
as a rookie,
there's nothing to be scared about.
Yeah, as a rookie, second or third round pick?
Yeah,
second. Yeah.
So you know what? Second round picks have been fucking beasts in the NFL.
I'm not going to write off Sky Moore. I mean, the dude has the tools. It's just,
but he's still a rookie. You don't know.
He's a small school guy. This is going to be big boy football. He's never played before. He's in the right system, though. If anybody can utilize him in the proper way, it's going to be Andy Reid and a Patrick Mahomes-led offense. So one last thing before we move on is Zach Wilson, man. He is Cougar hunter. Yeah, man, fitting coming from BYU. And I love it even more. I don't know if this is true or if this is something made up, but I saw on Facebook that he posted on Twitter, hey, just got back from a weekend in Idaho or something with the boys. What did I miss? ? And that was it. And you're like, dude, that is such a great move by a young guy like that, man. That's awesome. But I guess the story is that his girl left him or something for his college roommate and best friend because he was sleeping with his mom's best friend.
Nice.
So, hey, man, you do you. Get a little clout as the nice Mormon boy from BYU.
It makes me makes me root for him and hope he works out, because the young personalities that we have between him, Joe Burrow, these young guys that they got all the personality.
Yeah.
Like I hope
good for the game.
It's good for the game. Yeah.
I've always been a Zach Wilson stan, man. I said before he even got drafted, I thought he was the best quarterback in that class. I still think he has immense talent. And I mean, how disappointed are you in his character though, now that all this has come out? As a God-fearing man, it's something that I just no, I think, I mean, it is what it is. It's whatever. It really doesn't affect. I don't really care.
I'm kidding.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think people
really doing he's really doing God's work by injecting youth into a nice old woman.
Exactly.
Injecting
use of words.
Yeah. It's I don't know why people are making such a big deal about it though. Like,
no need for a rubber on that one.
I know, but it's just crazy that it made like headlines and it was like something that everyone talked about for a day. And I'm like, dude, he cheated on his wife, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like this earth-shattering thing. It happens every day.
Bro. We're reaching at this point. And from somebody we haven't heard a lot about in Zach Wilson. I'll take the news.
It's just amazing though. Like, he's literally a starting NFL player, like first round top. What was he, like the second pick in the NFL draft, and he's banging his mom's friend, who's probably like 50.
Hey, but have we seen pictures of his mom's friend? His mom's friend could be hot. We don't know.
Better be.
I guarantee it. Zach Wilson's a stud.
Yeah.
He can pretty much have his pick. He can have his pick of the litter.
Bro. He's probably had his eye on her since he was like 10. You know what I'm saying?
It's always been like the mom friend that came over for Bible study. That just like
he still views her as the woman that she used to be.
Yeah. She's got to be a good looking older lady though.
Like 38.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's like, I think his mom had him like fucking second she turned 18 and got married.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
I mean, she's got to be a good looking older lady. She has to be. There's no way.
Promise you, she doesn't look like the chick at fucking Terrible's gas station. I can tell you that. That you were fucking eyeballing. No, anyway. I'm just kidding.
Come on, Lauren.
All right, guys.
No comment.
Without further ado, let's get in, man. The hype train. Let's rock and roll. Josh, you know what? Do this the honors, man. We're going to touch on obviously guys who are overhyped, underhyped, and guys who are heavily hyped, who we think they deserve the hype, if you will. Yeah. Start us off, man. What do you think?
Well, we can start with your boy then. Someone that I think is overhyped. Is Javonte Williams.
Ooh, I wasn't where I thought you were going.
That isn't where I thought you were going either. I was ready to fucking argue.
No, I think Javonte Williams is overhyped. I think with them re-signing Melvin Gordon, I mean, I like Javonte. I think he's a stud. But his ADP is like he's being drafted as like running back 12.
Right.
I mean, that's RB1. And I mean, you're definitely gonna see Melvin and him still splitting carries for the majority. I think there's going to be an uptick in carries for Javonte than there was last year, but it's not just his backfield. And I just don't see the hype of him being RB12 or higher.
Allow me to make a counterpoint.
Yeah, please do.
I view this as more of a Cleveland Browns situation where you can have two running back ones in this, because this offense is going to be so prolific now with a real quarterback under center and with the receivers situation being ideal. With Sutton coming back from injury, he's going to be at full strength. And then you got, you got Jerry Jeudy in his second year, Tim Patrick,
third year.
You got Russell Wilson coming in, one of, a top 6 quarterback in the NFL. You can have both of those running backs be RB1s, I think. Yeah, maybe. I think you're probably going to have Gordon be like a high-end RB2, but like you can still have Javonte Williams.
It is a possibility. I wouldn't say that Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are any more talented or have any better of a situation than Javonte.
They just had a really good O-line.
Honestly,
and they were committed to running the ball.
Here's my counterpoint.
They're going to get a lot of red zone opportunities,
right.
and Russell Wilson is not the type to run it in. They're going to get goal line carries and
yes,
score.
100%.
And who do you think's getting those? It's going to be Javonte, not Melvin on the goal line.
So here's my counterpoint to that. I don't think he's being overhyped at all. I think he was prior to the Melvin Gordon signing. Everyone was like bona fide top 5 guy, and now he's being drafted as like a low end running back 1, high end running back 2, which is I think his true value. He finished his RB 17 last year, splitting 50% of the work with Melvin Gordon in an offense led by Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. So I'm not quite sure why it's unreasonable to think he's 5 slots higher with a bit more work in a Russell Wilson led offense. And seemingly a much more efficient and better, higher scoring offense. I just don't get why those things aren't adding up for you.
I don't think he's like night and day. I don't think he's overhyped to the extent where I think he's like a low end RB2 and he's being drafted as an RB1. I think he's a high end RB2, and I think he's being drafted as an RB1. And that's where I feel like he's being a little overhyped. I think a lot of the steam of before Melvin Gordon's re-signed is still rolling out of the Javonte train. I think a lot of that steam is still heading in that direction of people loving Javonte and kind of just forgetting that Melvin re-signed. And I don't see, I still think he's just being overhyped to the extent that like, he's like, oh, bona fide RB1. He's going to be the dude.
Again, I get what you're saying, but you're not stating anything that's like, that makes sense.
No context.
He was RB 17 last year with Drew Lock
until we see differently. What changed? I mean, what changed besides the quarterback? Besides the quarterback, what
that in and
everything,
of itself,
everything
that in and of itself is worth 3 or 4.
Here's the thing, though. Okay, well, here's the thing: a bad quarterback equals more running. They're not going to have the quarterback throwing the ball all over the field.
Less valuable touches, and we all know it. You know it. I know it.
I'm just saying, is with a worse quarterback, they're not throwing the ball 50 times a game. They're handing the ball off, so they're getting more opportunity.
And guess what? The defense knows they're doing, handing the ball off.
Well, yeah, but regardless, okay, you're telling me Javonte's not going to work the whole middle of the field, and then they're not going to give Melvin some red zone touches. You think Javonte's getting all the red zone touches?
Think about the way that Gordon was signed. We forget this too. They signed him because it was just like basically a free.
Oh, I know he took less money.
A free token. It's like, okay, why not re-sign?
Yeah, he took less.
No one else wants him.
Yeah,
he already played here. We already know what he is, and like, let's sign him. But I think this signing was more of an insurance policy than it was like, we're going to go at this with a 50-50 timeshare.
Yeah.
They know Javonte is their guy. They want him to be the starting guy who's going to get the bulk of the carries. And then you got Melvin Gordon, who he's a fail-safe more than anything else, in my opinion. And he's just going to be a guy that's going to get maybe some third down work or whatever. He's going to spell Javonte when Javonte's tired. I don't see it as 50-50 timeshare. I think it's going to be 70-30 is my look at it.
I just think until we see differently, like I don't see that much that has changed. With that's still the same 2 running backs. It's still essentially the same. I don't see, aside from Russell Wilson, Russell
Wilson is an astronomical change, bro.
I agree, but he's not going to astronomically change the running
leaving everything.
Yeah, but he's not going to.
They're telling me they're not going to have more opportunities to find the end zone.
Seattle went from a 10-win team.
I think they will. I don't think it's going to be just all running game, though. I think it's going to be a lot more passing opportunities.
Fucking 30 more touchdowns than they did last year. Either way, one more thing. Okay, to your point, is here. Let me pull up there. So Cecil Lamb and Benjamin Albright, they're 2 beat reporters for the Broncos in 2021. Both of them said, hey, ease off the gas a little bit on Javonte. This is a clear 50-50 split. You know what they're saying this year? Javonte's the clear 1A. Expect more work for Javonte.
Well, I do.
Both of these guys have proven to be pretty reliable. So if you see a bit more work for Javonte and Russell Wilson's a quarterback, he's only being drafted 4 or 5 spots higher than he finished last year. I don't see how you can count that as an overhype. Either way,
I think he's slightly overhyped.
You're a Raider fan. We expect nothing.
I just think I'm not saying he's way overhyped. I think he's slightly overhyped. He's going early second. I probably wouldn't take him till the end of the second.
So tell me who you take over him at the running back position then.
I would take
that's being drafted after him.
That's being drafted after him.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to say he's not worthy of a running
lower
back 12
ADP
pick, who's lower in ADP that you feel like deserves to be ahead of him?
All right, so here we are. I would take. Let's see.
You wouldn't pick Kamara because of his suspension risk until we find out what the scoop is with that. Let's assume he misses 6 games. No one's taking him ahead of him.
I would take Saquon. I would take Saquon over Javonte.
Saquon's ahead of him in ADP right now.
No, he's not.
According to Fantasy Pros, Saquon is 100% ahead of Javonte.
I would not. I would take Javonte over Saquon.
Really?
So you have Saquon at 12. You have Javonte at 13. Behind him, you have Kamara.
See, I have the way I have it ranked. I have it Saquon right behind Javonte.
But either way, you have.
I would take Kamara over Javonte. I would take Kamara over Javonte.
Let's say he gets injured, or not injured, but let's say he gets suspended 6 games. You're still going to take him? No. So let's assume he is, because there's fucking videotape of him beating the shit out of somebody out of a nightclub in Vegas. It's obvious. He's missing time.
Okay, that's 2 games. I'm taking Kamara.
Are you taking James Conner ahead of Javonte?
I would honestly take Devontae or David Montgomery over Javonte.
I would too.
Okay.
James Conner, yes or no?
James Conner would be a toss-up.
Zeke?
Toss-up. I would probably go Javonte.
No? Come on, answer the question.
I would probably go Javonte, but it'd be close.
Cam Akers, Gibson.
No, I would not take Cam Akers.
J.K. Dobbins. These are all the guys that are being drafted directly after Javonte. He's deserving of a fucking 12th or 13th ADP at running back. He's not being overvalued, but I get as a Raider fan.
I mean, David Montgomery's is RB 18. His ADP is RB 18, and I would take him way over Javonte.
Josh Jacobs is the clear number 1 on your team. Javonte outscores Josh Jacobs guaranteed.
Oof, we can make a bet on that one.
Let's do it.
Because I don't see it.
I think it's close. Of the work, he's gonna outscore Josh Jacobs. Either way,
all right.
We hit on it. I like it. I like the banter, of course, coming from the Bronco
to the Raiders
fan and the Raiders fan. It's good stuff. Lauren, who is your hype guy?
Overhyped?
Yep.
Never.
I have overhyped, underhyped, and then hyped.
Let's go overhyped. Well, we're on that overhyped train. Let's do it.
Okay, so while we're overhyped, I'm going to go with Dalton Schultz on this. I feel like his ADP has climbed a little too high. I feel like him being above Dallas Goddard in ADP is kind of silly. And he's also even approaching the likes of Waller and Kittle, and that's just getting a little out of control for me. I get that there's a lot less mouths to feed, and there's a lot of vacated targets in Dallas, and I like him for that reason.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the talent does not shine, and also you're looking at a lot of with Dallas Goddard and Philly. I think he's underrated, underhyped. That's another one I could put under the underhyped category. In that I feel like just watching the games, I feel like Hurts leans on him a lot. He's clearly now the guy.
Well, and we had always talked about only if Goddard and
his
Hurts
talent
weren't on the same team, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it happened, and they both kind of underwhelmed.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But let's not forget that still happened.
It had just
it
happened.
Still happened.
It's so yeah.
Until we see a full workload. I mean, I wouldn't say that I disagree with the Goddard over Schultz take. I don't know though, man. I mean, there's no debate that he is far less talented than probably 8 or 9, 10 tight ends
correct
in the NFL, which is
but you have to look at the system
to pay him as a top 5 tight end. But
you have to look at the system. You have to look at his competition. Yeah,
he's just going to see so much volume. I would go as far as saying I don't think Jason Witten is the most talented tight end ever in the world.
But he was always relevant.
He was just good enough, and he was durable, and he saw a lot of work. Yeah. It's no disrespect to Witten. It's just Schultz, I think, is Witten.
I agree, though, Lauren. I think his hype train has gone up a lot. I think he is a little overhyped, but I'm actually kind of upset about that because I was really big on Dalton Schultz when he was lower. I'm like, this dude's a steal. I think he's going to be a stud. I agree. And then his hype has gone up and up and up and up. And now it's almost a little too rich for your blood.
Consensus 6th tight end.
Correct.
After the clear Fab 5.
He's that like object you like at a swap meet or something like that. And you're like, man, I really wanted to buy it, but these guys just asking a little too much. I just can't do it.
Like, I really wanted to buy the real thing.
Yeah.
But since the knockoff looks almost as good, I'm going to go ahead and draft Schultz.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's just a little too rich now. I'm not saying he's like massively overhyped.
I also can't.
But I feel
that's where I was with Javonte. Like it's just a little bit too rich for my blood.
Yeah.
It's just
Goddard all day over Schultz because I feel like they're going to get a similar target share, and Goddard's talent is so much greater, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right, let's see here.
Who you got for overhyped?
I don't have a lot of overhyped players, I will say.
I got another one too that we can throw in the pipe.
Let me hit on one. I got an overhyped guy, Jaylen Waddle.
Really?
All right, look, I like Waddle. I'm going to read off some of my notes here. He had a phenomenal rookie season, man. I mean, he saw 140 targets in year one with 0 people behind him. Okay. And, he's being drafted as wide receiver 16. He finished as wide receiver 16 last year. I don't think there's a single case to be made that Jaylen Waddle's in a better situation now than he was last year. He saw 140 targets.
You know what he is? He's top ramen. When you're poor and that's all you can eat, you love it.
Yeah.
But like when there's other options, you're not eating the top ramen anymore. When you got Tyreek Hill there, when you got all these others.
Like, dude, there's recency bias because he was an insane value last year and potentially brought a lot of deep playoff teams into that deep playoff run.
Yeah. He was my guy. I took him at the end of the draft last year, and he was my flex spot all year.
I loved Waddle's rookie season. They paid Tyreek $30 million a year to be the number one.
Yeah.
Tua is still the quarterback. They brought McDaniel in as a run-heavy, fucking outside zone scheme coach.
And they brought in Mostert.
They brought in Mostert. They got Chase Edmonds. They got Sony Michel. Like, they're going to have a committee. They're going to lean on the run until Tua proves to be able to be trusted otherwise. And I'm sorry, there is 0. I can't find any situation where Waddle sees anywhere near 140 targets. You have Cedric Wilson, who's going to inevitably see about 60. You got Tyreek, who's going to demand 150. You got Gesicki, who's a dominant receiving tight end, who's going to see his 60, 70, 80 targets. Chase Edmonds going to get his out of the receiving game. Dude, Waddle's a good number 2, but he's being drafted.
But that's where he's being drafted.
He's being drafted. No, I'm saying number 2 in the league, not in fantasy. I think Waddle is being drafted at his ceiling. I think that's the best case scenario for him to finish wide receiver 16. And if you're going to bet on his ceiling, go for it. But there's 5 or 6.
That's crazy that you think his ceiling is almost a mid-tier wide receiver 2. Like, to me, that's pretty standard. Like, to me, that's right where he should be.
100% his ceiling. I think he's 8 to 10 spots too high and about 2 rounds too high.
He's a guy that I would never draft. He's just one of those guys where I see him, I'm like, I look anywhere else but him.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to tell me that you think Tua can support borderline.
Maybe I have a little bias because I had Waddle last year and he paid dividends for me.
You had a great first date with him, and you think she's marriage material and she's staying.
I mean, let's just assume Tyreek falls down and he finishes as a wide receiver 10. Because he goes from Mahomes to Tua.
Yeah.
I cannot fathom Tua. Okay. Being the quarterback he is,
2 receivers
supporting
Tua
Tyreek at 10 and Waddle as like that fringe wide receiver 1, like the 14, 15, 16 range. I can't
let's just face it. He's one of Tua Tagovailoa, whatever the fuck the last name is. He's not Tua
Tagovailoa.
One of Tua Tagovailoa. Like,
yeah, and here's the deal. I'm rooting for Tua, man. I think it'd be great. I think it'd be great if he's good.
I like Miami.
Another thing to consider, I think Miami's going to be much better. I just think another thing to consider too is they also have the 3rd toughest schedule against wide receivers going into 2022. It's pretty brutal. Dude, he's I
don't know if he's necessarily overhyped.
I think he's more, he deserves to be closer to the wide receiver 24 to 28 range. And that's where I think
it's less overhyped and more overranked. No one talks about him. He's just kind of like sits in
the fantasy community. I'm seeing on Facebook groups and on Instagram and things like that. People are talking about, the top duo to finish fucking, other than Higgins and Chase, the top duo to finish as wide receiver 1s is Waddle and Tyreek. I wouldn't be shocked if neither of them finishes wide receiver 1s rather than fucking 2 of them. It's Tua. Like, do we just automatically think this guy's going to be a stud?
Yeah.
He gets to play the Patriots.
I mean, he finished it. He finished
the Bills twice. I mean, the Jets got Sauce Gardner, who may lock down Tyreek. I mean, who knows?
He finished at wide receiver 16 as a rookie. You're telling me he's not going to take a jump as a year 2 player?
He might be talent-wise and efficiency-wise. He's not going to see anywhere near the volume. He's going to see 110 targets.
And you think 110 versus 140 takes him from wide receiver 16 to wide receiver 24?
Yeah. 100%. He's being drafted ahead of Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, all like any one of those guys I would happily take above Jaylen Waddle.
Yeah. Well, then let's talk about one of my overhyped guys who's right in that mix with Jaylen Waddle, and that's Terry McLaurin. I think Terry McLaurin is being overhyped. He's sitting right there at above even Jaylen Waddle. I mean, people go, "Oh, he's ranked." He's like wide, but barely. He's wide receiver 15, where Jaylen Waddle is wide receiver 16, and people are looking at that as saying that he's like being devalued. But I look at that thinking that people are overhyping him because he's never even come close to those kind of finishes. And while yes, he has a quarterback upgrade, if you will, with Carson Wentz.
My stance on Wentz. I think,
but exactly, like we're like, how much better is he going to be? I mean,
I would agree. I think Jahan Dotson is going to actually maybe be a little bit better than people are giving him credit for. Everybody's talking about Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, Treylon Burks. Not a single Jameson Williams. Mm-hmm. Nobody is talking about that dude at all.
And he's going to be good.
And he was going to be solid. 20th overall.
Yeah,
he has a massive dominator ranking in college. I think Washington
was he not the first receiver taken?
No.
London. Okay.
London. And then
he was second.
No.
And then it was Garrett Wilson, and then it was a couple other guys, Jameson Williams.
It was like 10, 11, 12.
Treylon Burks.
Burks. I think it was the fourth or fifth. Either way, it's Washington led by Carson Wentz, and I just don't think they're going to be that good.
I think Terry McLaurin is right in the same boat that he's been every year. He's on the same team with the same offense with essentially the same kind of quarterback, a guy who's just kind of an average dude who's not a superstar, and he's going to finish in the same spot that he always finishes, which is right around wide receiver 20, between 20 and 25.
It's not his fault. It's a lack of talent.
No, I think he's super talented.
So you just wish he would have been traded to like Green Bay.
Yeah, I think he's super talented, but I think based off of his surroundings, he's going to finish between wide receiver 20 and 25 like he does every year, but he's being drafted at wide receiver 15, and I just feel like
I wouldn't disagree. I mean, Fantasy Pros right now has him at 17, one spot below Waddle.
I'm seeing it 15, one spot above.
Waddle. I mean, I'd happily take him over Deontay
Would you take him over Mike Williams?
No, I'd take Mike Williams over him. I'd take Brandon Cooks. I'd take Sutton. I'd take Amari Cooper. I'd take Allen Robinson, Judy, Mooney,
Marquise Brown. I'd take Marquise Brown. Yeah.
I think McLaurin and Waddle both are in that like low end 2, high end 3. I believe I agree with you. I think McLaurin.
See, I'm a little higher on Waddle. I would take Waddle over McLaurin, but I do. Yeah, it's weird to me because
why?
I like him. I got a little bias towards him. I had him last year.
Him and Landry. He loves those milk-toast wide receivers.
He's the number 2.
He loves those guys that run 4 yards, turn around. And catch
that's the whole point. Is I think that Waddle is right where he should be at like a mid-tier wide receiver 2. No, where McLaurin is being drafted as a mid-tier wide receiver 2, and he's never finished as that. Yeah, so I don't. If
20, I thought you said
20 was his highest.
No, so that's mid-range wide receiver 2.
Okay, low-end wide receiver 2.
I would just take a number 1. I think McLaurin's equally as talented as Waddle. I'd rather take a number 1 on a team that's equally.
I mean, that's the closest. That would be the closest. But I would take Mike Williams over. I would take Mike Williams over McLaurin, and he's being drafted behind
list of guys that are currently ranked like 18th to 30th that I would happily take over these guys. Same with DK Metcalf. I wouldn't say he's hyped. Everyone's going, fuck, he has Drew Lock and Geno Smith throwing him the ball. I wouldn't say he's hyped, but I do think he's overranked.
Yeah.
I don't think he deserves to be above Sutton or Mike Williams or Bateman or fucking
he's like wide receiver like 9 or something.
The talent's there, but like, is it?
Yeah.
Or was it the fact that he had one of the best deep ball throwers of all time throwing in the ball, and that's the only fucking thing the guy knows to do?
Yeah.
I think we'll find out.
It sucks because I love Terry McLaurin. I think he's great. I've had him in the past. I love him, but I just I'm looking at where his ADP is, and I'm like, he's never come close to finishing there. I just don't see why he's still being drafted that high.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Terry McLaurin, you got anybody else that's overhyped?
No.
Well, let me get on to my guy. We'll go on to quarterback. Okay, this guy, I have the hype is right on this guy, but I think it's a little bit low. I still think value is there. And this is my dude, Jalen Hurts. Talk about hype. You can't disagree with the hype being.
So you're saying he's a little underhyped?
I think the hype is deserving. I mean, I don't think there's any shortage of people talking about the guy, but I do still think even with that and seeing him rise on draft boards almost everywhere, I do still think the value prevails. And oftentimes with these situations, they end up being too expensive and you're like, fuck, man, he's totally my guy. I'd love to have
it doesn't
him.
seem to be the case here,
but it's not worth it at this point. He's currently, let's check this out. So he's currently being drafted as the 7th or 8th quarterback in about the 6th round in single quarterback redraft leagues. Yeah. I think it's insane value. I really do. Here's the deal. He is the number one, according to PFF going into 2022, he's the number one ranked offensive line in the game. They replaced a fucking bust of Jalen Reagor with AJ Brown. Okay. That's night and day. It's not even in the same fucking spectrum. Okay. So not only that, but you have Javonte coming into year 2, a clear year where top talented guys like this tend to take a massive step forward.
Yep. That second year wide receiver breakout
code for that second year wide receiver. Javonte played really well in year 1.
Yeah.
With a Jalen Hurts throwing in the ball.
Awesome,
I'm not trying to say that Jalen Hurts is some fucking premier pocket passer.
Yeah.
But if he takes a step forward in what was basically his first year and Javonte can take a step forward, you have an elite X receiver in AJ Brown. One of the top probably 5, if Javonte can take a step forward, top 5 wide receiver too, and an arguable talent wise, top 5, top 6, 7 tight end in Dallas Goddard. You pair that with an offensive minded coach and the number 1 offensive line in football. You also
and a very good running back. I mean, Miles Sanders is solid.
Right. So they have to respect that. But here's the thing. Hold on one sec.
See, yeah, I feel like that he's right in line where he should be. I think he's, at quarterback 7. I don't see him finishing worse than that, but I don't know if I necessarily see him finishing much higher than that. I think he could be maybe QB 5, but I don't see like a QB 1 kind of breakout year, QB 2 kind of breakout year. I think he's kind of like right in line where he should be.
So let me point out a few stats from last year. He was number 1 in points per dropback, number 2 in total red zone rushes per game by a quarterback, second to Josh Allen, and like number 3 in air yards per attempt, meaning he was willing to throw the ball further downfield than every other quarterback, but 2 of them. All that, and he got 5 touchdowns called back last year because of penalty. Okay, still finished as the quarterback 8. You add AJ Brown, another year in the offense,
another year of development
for himself. Here's my deal. Jalen Hurts is my number 3 quarterback this year. I believe in him. I think he doesn't provide quarterback 1 upside any less than any guy other than Josh Allen and Herbert. I think he provides the same upside as Lamar Jackson and is arguably in a better situation. I think he provides the same upside as Kyler Murray, arguably in a better situation. I'm in on Jalen Hurts. He's top 3 for me, locked in. I don't think there's really a case to be made that Mahomes should be ahead of him, that Burrow should be ahead of him, that anybody else should be ahead of him. Hurts.
Dak Prescott, you wouldn't put Dak up there?
No, Dak is like 12th. He's not even in the discussion. Not even.
See that we had this big discrepancy last week where I had Dak much higher than you.
If you have Dak anywhere near Jalen Hurts, you are out of your mind. You are out of your.
See, I don't agree with that at all. I don't think that Dak is that far. How is he worse? How is he worse than Jalen Hurts?
He provides half the rushing upside on a worse team with less options.
Dak provides half the rushing upside.
Yeah,
I agree there.
Dak's going to see 5 touchdowns.
Are you just basing it off of last year when he was coming back off of?
Dak has never been an elite rusher. He's been a good rusher, but he's.
And Jalen Hurts has been an elite rusher
and rushing touchdowns last year.
Not only that, you frequently see him just jog for first downs over and over again.
He's the number 1 red zone threat on a rush first team. It's not Miles Sanders. It's not Boston Scott. It's not fucking Gainwell. It's Jalen Hurts. He's going to see all the red zone work just like Josh Allen.
Between the 20s, he eats up yardage too on his feet.
He is elite. He is equally as elite, in my opinion, for fantasy football as Lamar Jackson is on the ground.
I will say that
I think
Dak routinely drops back and can throw for 400 yards. I don't see Hurts doing that. So I think
he doesn't do that.
Even if you get half the rushing upside that you get with Hurts, with Dak, you're going to get routine 350, 400-yard passing games, 3 touchdowns through the air, some rushing touchdowns.
I think Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins outscored Dak this year.
No way.
100%.
I just don't see it. I don't know why you're so. I don't see. I think Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins are going to be great this year.
CeeDee Lamb with a banged up offense, a fucking aging Zeke, and Schultz is your number 2.
Dak Prescott is going to be a top 10, at least a top 10 quarterback this year. I mean, he's going to be another year removed from the injury.
I think his top end finish is that 8, 9, 10 range, 100%. But I wouldn't be shocked if he finishes 14.
I think his floor is 10. His floor is 10.
Give me a scenario where you think Jalen Hurts cracks the top 5. Like, really? You think he's going to throw for 4,800 fucking yards and 35?
You're talking about Dak? Dak? Yeah. Oh, I think it's very possible.
How?
What do you mean how?
With Jalen Tolbert as your wide receiver too, he couldn't do it with Amari Cooper and fucking CeeDee Lamb. Now
he had 4,900 yards and 30 touchdowns just 2 years ago before the injury.
30 touchdowns. What he finished?
And six rushing touchdowns.
So what he finished fantasy wise?
Let me look.
Like 6?
Probably like QB4 or something.
I'm sure he was up there in that range.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying. I mean, that was
right before the injury. Is his team better or worse? Is his team better or worse?
I feel like his team is about the same.
How do you figure, dude? He lost his starting right tackle. Tyron Smith is a year older. Zeke is a year older.
A shell of himself.
CeeDee Lamb is unproven. While he may have the talent, he may not. And you have Jalen Tolbert and Gallup, who's going to be on the pup. Like, come on, dude. His team is significantly worse than the year he threw for 4,830.
He finished at quarterback 2 that year.
Okay. Great. That's the best year you'll ever see from Dak.
I don't see it.
Ever. He's had multiple injuries since then. I think Joe Burrow is on the same.
Okay, when he finished at quarterback 2, he didn't even have CeeDee Lamb on the team. He had just Amari Cooper. So it's the same thing. He's got one number 1 receiver.
Dak is not anywhere near,
because CeeDee wasn't drafted until 2020. So I just don't see how you can have these guys so far apart.
I think Dallas,
when they're going to finish.
I think Dallas is going to suck.
This is one of those face-offs we need to put on the Instagram. Dak versus Hurts. Who you got?
Dude, it's easy.
It's not easy.
Anybody
doesn't seem that easy.
It. I haven't seen one fantasy analyst or one prolific account have them anywhere near each other in rankings. Like, nowhere near.
That seems a little crazy.
To me, I just can't. I can't wrap my head around.
I would don't get me wrong. If I'm sitting on the clock and both of them are there, I'm going to take Hurts, but I don't think it's that far off.
I don't either.
I do. I think it's significant.
I mean, if you look at the rankings, I mean, Hurts is going 7-8 and Dak is going like 8-9. They're like right next to each other.
So you have right now, Fantasy Pros has Hurts at 6 and Prescott at 9. I personally think Russell Wilson's going to have a better year than Dak. So I would put Dak below Russell Wilson. I think Stafford's going to have a better year than Prescott. I'd put Dak below Stafford. And I think Lance is going to have a better year than Prescott. So I would put Dak below Lance. So now you go from 9 to 12. Still going to have a pretty good year.
You're guessing on Lance.
How am I guessing?
On Lance. You're guessing on Lance. You're guessing, huh?
He has the same rushing upside as Hurts.
Yeah, but you're guessing on Lance because you've seen it with Dak. You've seen it with Dak.
400 yards and 6 touchdowns. Lance has upside of 800 yards and 10 touchdowns.
All right, we got to move on. We can argue about these two all night long. We got more players.
I just think they're going to be a lot closer.
Here's the thing. I would expect a Raiders fan to have the Cowboys as their second favorite team.
Mm-hmm.
I get it.
They're not. I don't like the Cowboys. I just think I like Dak. I think he's going to go back to his older form pre-injury of 4,900 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns, which is right in line with where you have Hurts. I don't see how you could have them so far apart. That's my only thing.
I agree that it'll be tough with that surrounding cast because then you're penciling in guys like Tolbert for how many yards and touchdowns. Like you just mathematically, who's getting all these yards?
So CD needs 2,000 yards if you think Dak's throwing for 2,800 or 4,800.
Yeah,
he did it in 2019 with only Amari. So I don't. How is CD going to be that much of a drop off?
He had Gallup, who wasn't coming off an ACL. Either way, I get it. We just disagree.
He still had Witten there getting 1,000.
I think there's 7. I think there's 7 spots apart. Maybe actually closer to 9.
Yeah, I love Hurts. I just don't have him as high as you, and I just have Dak higher than you. I think they're a little closer where you have them a little more spread off.
So where would you have Dak before we move on?
I mean, I had Dak and CD as my number 2 stack last year. I'm really high.
I really want to know who you have Dak ahead of.
I don't have my rankings on me right now.
Because if you have them above,
let me just look at the ADP real quick.
Ertz, Murray, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes.
So I would go Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. Then I would probably go. Lamar. Then I would go Dak. Then I would go Jalen Hurts. Then I would go Russell Wilson.
Before this conversation.
Huh?
I did my quarterback rankings the other day before we had this conversation. And now that I'm looking at it, Dak's at 12.
And Hurts is at 11.
Okay, give me your top 11 real quick. Just say the names.
Hurts is 11, though.
All right, so I had Allen at 1, Herbert at 2, Lamar at 3, Burrow at 4, Mahomes at 5, Rodgers at 6, Murray at 7, Wilson at 8, Stafford at 9, Lance at 10, Hurts at 11, and then Dak at 12. That's my rank.
I mean, that's a good list. I think there's a few guys I would put Dak ahead of, which I think I would probably have him somewhere in 5, 6, 7 range. But it seems like you, Lauren, have Hurts and Dak a lot closer together as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still feel like there's some unknown with Hurts. It could end up going poorly. Like,
you think he could be worse than last year?
Like,
I just don't see it.
Probably not.
I just don't see it. And he finished 8th last year. That's all. Let's move on.
Yeah. Yep.
Josh, who's another guy you got for the hypey type?
I got a guy. We can go a little bit of the underhype since you went underhyped.
Who you hyphy on, bro?
Breece Hall, man. I think.
Yes. Finally, I've been fucking agree about something.
I was higher on Breece Hall before you. I've been higher on Breece.
Talk me into it.
Huh?
I said, don't. I was talking.
I was super high on Breece Hall when we first started talking about these rookies. You weren't.
You were.
I'm so glad that you're on the Breece Hall train now because I think it's warranted. But the problem is he's being drafted as like RB16. I'm
seeing RB20.
Yeah, exactly.
Pros right now, he's ADP. His ADP is RB20.
Yeah, exactly. Which is still insane to me. I like how are guys like Leonard Fournette and James Conner and Cam Akers going higher than him?
Right.
You know, like I think he has like a Najee type rookie year.
Yeah.
Or he has the potential to have a Najee type rookie year where he's going to finish as like a top 5, 6, 7 guy. How is he being drafted like mid-tier RB2 behind guys like Leonard Fournette?
It happens every single year. Oftentimes, if a running back isn't drafted top 10 in the draft, automatically they're just fucking written off.
Yep.
Here's the deal, dude. He was an All-American, first team All-American in 2020 and in 2021. And unlike guys like Isaiah Spiller and some other guys who had a lot of production in college, he actually balled out with the measurables. He was sub 4.40, 40-inch vertical, 10.6-inch fucking shuttle, all elite, like 90+ percentiles and everything. And he produced at the college level. Okay. Another thing, I know like it's hard to put much weight on historical data because a running back that had no correlation to this guy 3 years ago did it. But for sake of argument, historical data does carry some weight. It's how people would develop algorithms. It's how, it carries some weight. Since 2017, 5 years is how far I went back. 10 rookies have finished as RB1s. 10. That's 2 a year. There was 1 year that it didn't happen. There was 1 year where 4 rookies were RB1s. Okay. Data shows there should be at least
fresh legs, dude.
Young guys.
Young guys can handle it.
Right. And that's a big part of it is the tread, dude. Yeah. There's so much tread on these tires that it's almost a guarantee one of the likes of Fournette, James Conner, fucking Cam Akers, any one of these guys, Zeke, they could just get hurt and they're out.
I mean, Zeke's being drafted a little bit behind, but it's same, conversation where,
So that's crazy. Dude, 10 of them in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And now, right now, the highest ranked rookie is barely like mid-range RB2.
Yeah.
Man, if data shows you anything, Breece Hall will finish as an RB1.
Yeah.
And
and you look at, Najee is being ranked at like RB5 or 6. How are he and Breece Hall that much different?
They're not
Breece.
I'm not a Najee guy.
I like Najee.
The talent. Yeah. I mean, I can't say enough about his toughness.
Yeah,
but he's a beast.
I think if you're going to have Najee up there at the top 5 or 6, how can you look at Breece Hall and not even have him close?
The one thing is one's proven, the other isn't. I'm not sure where Najee was drafted last year. I think he was drafted like low end RB1. I do still think he was drafted higher than Breece Hall.
He was drafted like a low end RB1.
Yeah, but back into the first round in most drafts.
You know, he's still, you know, I like Najee, man. The unknown at quarterback makes it scary. We don't have Big Ben
and the O-line
dumping the ball off a million times to the guy.
Is awful.
Without his receiving upside and getting 95 fucking targets, he would have been well out of the RB1 range. So we don't know how that's going to look because both Pickett and Trubisky are both way more athletic and are going to extend plays way more than Big Ben.
Big Ben was like fucking playing hot potato. He did not want the ball in his hands.
Yes,
the second he
which
got
is
it,
why Deontay Johnson and Najee were the beneficiaries of that style of play.
I don't know. I just look at Breece Hall.
The ball 40 times a game.
Yeah,
which helps.
I look at Breece Hall and I look at where his ADP is, and I just think there's no way he finishes anywhere near that low. And he's so underhyped in my opinion. And it's like people are talking about him because he's a rookie and because he is good. I mean, he is being talked about, but where they're placing his value to me just does not match up where I think he's going to finish. And I'm going to jump all over him if I have the opportunity to, based off of where his ADP is. I think he's a steal.
One more little bit of data is Mike Clay of ESPN, who does a lot of projections. He projects Breece to see about 240 touches.
Yeah.
If that's the case, every single running back that saw 240 touches or more last year finishes RB1.
Yeah.
It's hard not to.
I mean,
even if you're getting like we saw with Najee, if you're getting 2 yards per touch,
the other thing
counts,
is honestly the upside of that offensive line is potentially top 10.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it's hinged on their left tackle, Mekhi Becton, who's a fucking mauler in the run game. He's like 6'8", fucking 300.
He's like Trent Brown, dude. Just this massive body.
I mean, he's just a giant guy. There's some risks with him, but if they can play to form, they're gonna be better than a lot of people are giving them credit for. Way better than what the bottom feeders that they've competed with in the last couple of years for the top picks are looking like. With the Jaguars, the Texans, the Bears. Like the Jets have a far more formidable roster than any of those other teams. Yeah.
I'm real big on Breece. I'm glad you're on the Breece train.
Love Breece.
I think Lauren's been on the Breece train. I think, he's just underhyped. I think he's a great value at where his ADP is right now.
Yep. I 100% agree. I'm glad we can agree on something.
There you go.
I like it.
Who you got, Lauren?
All right. Underhyped. I got Elijah Mitchell. He's a clear starting running back for the league's best rushing attack. And I think Trey Lance will enhance his abilities. I think there's going to be a lot of sleight of hand, a lot of misdirection, a lot of play action going on. And also the defense is going to have to be concerned about RPO and Trey Lance on designed runs and things like that. And it's going to open up those inside runs that Shanahan loves to roll out. And I think he showed a lot of toughness, and he's got those fresh legs we were talking about. I mean, he's 22 years old.
Yeah.
He can carry the load, and I just don't see a lot of competition for him in that backfield right now. And we saw nothing from Trey Sermon last year. We bring in TDP, but who knows what you're going to get out of that.
3rd round pick.
Yeah. He's the only known entity we have.
You kind of reached on him.
I mean, you don't think that like last year plays any part? Like, I mean, he was the RB1 last year too. You know, I mean, yes, he got banged up. He got banged up, but
you're getting a starting running back in a great offense, and you're getting him at a value where he's going in drafts right now. I think he's going around guys where you're talking like Melvin Gordon type character.
Yeah, he's going at like RB21, which is back end of the second round, and it's
no, he's going later than that. I mean, RB21 is like the 4th round. You're getting Elijah Mitchell in like the 4th round.
I meant he's being drafted as a RB2, like a back end RB2,
right?
Is what I'm saying. Yeah, not second round, but RB2. Which I mean, I don't know if he's. I mean, he's getting drafted around guys like Travis Etienne.
Here's what's dropping his value.
I'm saying redraft value. I'll take him over Etienne all day. And obviously, in a dynasty, I'm going to take Etienne.
But here's the tough part: is it's really hard to just trust Shanahan.
Yeah, exactly.
If he played for any other coach. If Jim Harbaugh or whatever the other Harbaugh.
You know what else is hard though? It's hard for Shanahan to trust anyone else in this backfield. And you saw like they have a certain type of guy they like. Shanahan, his dad.
Mitchell is built like that.
But that guy that Shanahan likes gets hurt.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of guy gets hurt. And it's hard to.
The only guy that didn't get hurt was the guy that wasn't built like that.
Yeah.
Carlos Hyde.
Yeah.
And he sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Elijah Mitchell played 11 games.
He was schemed up. Here's the worry is that if he gets hurt, if he does, there may be zero chance for him to ever get his starting job back.
Which is like why I'm saying I would never pick him in Dynasty.
That's what's hard.
But in redraft, I think he's well worth where he's at. He's a value
he will
pick.
outplay his ADP if he can give you 14 games or more.
If he can, but that's the gamble you have to make. You know,
long term, I have no idea what's going to happen in this backfield.
But I think that's where his ADP is being
himself knows.
And there's no draft capital involved with him.
Yeah, I think that's where
last year they could cut his ass next year and never miss him again.
Yeah, I think that's where his ADP is being factored in, though. I think people are factoring in maybe him getting banged up and getting injured, and that's why they're putting him at that RB2, which is hard to do.
There was a guarantee that he was going to get all the work and wasn't going to get injured. He's a top 8 guy.
Exactly. But I think people are factoring that in, which is why he's falling there. Yeah. And if you're willing to take that gamble that he doesn't get banged up and he can play a full season, then he's going to have
people are looking at everything like as though it's the same, though. And a lot's changed. It's going to be Trey Lance back there, a quarterback. And I think, like I said, it's going to open things up. And so
I just worry, like, let me ask you, like, genuinely speaking, I see it the opposite way. And I'm curious if you've already said how you see it. Do you not think Trey Lance lowers Elijah Mitchell's touchdown upside?
Oh, he's going to steal a ton of red zone.
Trey Lance is going to see a ton of red zone work. Just like Jalen Hurts, like Miles Sanders might rush for 1,000.
I mean, in that offense, Elijah Mitchell can break off a 60-yard TD run every game. Like, I mean, that's just one of those. I mean, he can do it, but I don't see him playing a full season.
You can't bet on that, though. You need the actual volume in the red zone, and I'm not convinced that Trey Lance is not going to be the number one running back in the red zone.
Yeah,
why wouldn't he be?
There's also an element of like James, what we saw last year with the Cardinals, with James Conner getting a shitload. You would have thought Kyler Murray would have lowered his upside in the red zone, correct? But when you
Kyler Murray got banged up, though.
When you get the
Kyler Murray was banged up. He couldn't run the last half of the season.
Sure, but also there is an element of the running game being wide open in the red zone because the defense is worried about the quarterback taking it to the outside, and then you get those inside runs and they're wide open.
Yeah, it's tough. I think talent-wise and in that offense and everything like that, as an RB1, yes, he should not be being drafted at like back end of RB as a back end RB2. But I think he's actually kind of right in line where he should be because I don't see him playing a full season. I do think Trey Lance takes.
You guys give me shit for sitting here and go, well, you don't know just because a guy's had some injuries that he's going to get injured. You can't factor that in, and now you're doing it.
No, but I'm not. None of
if
what
he plays 16 games, you're saying you're not excited about him where he's being
absolutely. That's what we're saying. Yeah.
Let me hedge on this a little bit. Unlike most people in that category, you have no certainty he's going to be the guy. None. Just like last year, everybody had Trey Sermon chalked up as the clear fucking cut number one guy all through training camp. And guess who it was?
Yeah, but we didn't see anything between anybody in that backfield. Now we've seen a season.
Shanahan wouldn't shock me at all to just start TDP.
I don't think it's no. I think it's knowing the 49ers. I'm just saying as a 49er fan, knowing this team more than you do, he's the guy. He's the guy. Last year, we had 2 rookies coming in. We had Trey Sermon and we had Elijah Mitchell, a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, you didn't know. And what's his name was going to be the guy. Who's the guy that?
Yeah, Sermon. Of course, everybody.
No. Who's the guy that was the guy before he got hurt?
What Breida or
no Mostert.
Who's your
boy? Mostert was going to be overhyped.
Yes, until one play into
the season. Even with Mostert, the dude Sermon was so talk about fucking overhyped. He was so
no one had
hyped.
seen him playing in the NFL yet though.
And even the beat reporters were like, this guy's the guy.
But in redrafts, he was going in like the 7th round, like that's
everyone was saying he's this crazy value. He's gonna be the guy come week 6, he's gonna be the starting guy. That's all I'm telling you. I'm not betting on it. That's the worry, though, for me with Elijah Mitchell. Unlike some other guys in that same range, I just feel like maybe the backfield's a bit murkier than.
I think it's. I don't know if it's necessarily murky. I don't know if it's necessarily murky because, like, I think Mitchell showed enough. I think Mitchell showed enough.
And reach on TDP is my question. Why? You got Wilson, you got Sermon, you have Hasty, you have every other fucking back who's.
Because Shanahan can't help himself.
Why draft TDP in the 3rd round when he had a 6th round grade?
Why is Warren Buffett still buying stocks when he's fucking like at $80 billion or whatever?
You can't help yourself.
You just can't help it. He just wants them.
Yeah, I know. I think
I get it. That's just if I were to make a counterpoint, that's all I would say. And you do know the Niners a lot better than I do.
Yeah.
Other than Hyde, though, there's never been the same guy twice. That's all I'm saying.
I think Elijah is going to be Elijah is the clear-cut one, like you say, Lauren. I think he proved enough last year that Shanahan likes him the most, but I think he's not going to get all the work. So that offense doesn't do that.
He's the clear-cut guy in that quality of an offense, which that offense will be elite. The running game will be elite. If he's that clear-cut of the guy, it's really he's dropping that much because you're fucking injury risk.
No. See, that's what I'm saying. I think he's the clear-cut RB1 on the roster, but he's not going to get RB1 work.
Yeah, but no, RB1s in that system get RB1 work.
He will.
He's going. There's going to be
fucking job and never fucking see the field again.
That's what I'm saying.
They're not going to automatically have a committee.
Who's going to take it from him?
You're telling me there's not unproven guys that could potentially surge? It ain't Wilson or Hasty. TDP does worry me.
I mean, yeah, it happens every year with the Niners. It happens every year with the Niners.
That's all.
We'll see. I think he's a good value where he's at.
I don't know. I don't know. You guys don't think I feel like that offense is very committee heavy.
No,
that's all you see from that offense.
No, it's not.
Maybe because guys are getting injured and you see so many running backs in there. I'm like, I see running backs all the time.
How many carries did in the NFC Championship game against the Packers a few years ago when Mostert was healthy? How many carries did anyone else get? Mostert scored like 6 touchdowns. Well, yeah, he was still in there in the fourth quarter when we were up like 40 points, scoring more touchdowns.
Okay, but that's the thing is that's what Shanahan does. Someone gets the hot hand. All of a sudden, say Elijah Mitchell comes out for a series, goes in, and all of a sudden he breaks off a 45-yarder. He might just leave TDP in there. Mitchell might not see the field that game. It's one of those things where he gets the hot hand and Shanahan just goes, all right, just go ahead and stick it out.
It's all boils down to Shanahan. I don't doubt Mitchell's fucking talent. I don't doubt the offense. I just know that Shanahan does weird shit. Because while you say, yeah, he's the guy, I agree. He shows to have every sign, which makes me even more worried. If they were like, nope, you know what? It's going to be a competition with him and TDP. I'd be like, dude, Mitchell's the guy. But because they're like, nope, Mitchell's the fucking guy. All the reports are going to do that. And then fucking Mitchell's going to be the third stringer and Wilson's going to fucking start. Like Shanahan's a motherfucker with stuff like that, dude. And he screws everybody with fantasy constantly.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right, let's move on.
Another guy I have that's just hyped because of the recency is Joe Burrow. I think he's right where he needs to be. This isn't an argumentative take. I think everyone kind of sees him in the same light. He's just, man, he's hyped. Like he took his team to the Super Bowl with a poor offensive line. God, is it exciting to watch him play alongside T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
And the naysayers bring up his inconsistency throughout the beginning of last season. But when you think about he was coming off of an ACL, had the brace on his knee and everything else. Like it almost makes sense when you look at it. It's like, of course, he got better as the season progresses. He got more comfortable with his knee, and started moving around better.
Well, another point: this time last year, Joe Burrow was not practicing with his team.
Right?
No,
this time last year, actually, in about 2 or 3 weeks from now, last year, Jamar Chase couldn't catch a football because there wasn't white lines on it.
And yet, the Super Bowl. That's how good Joe Burrow was.
Joe Burrow also has swagger. Man, he's fun to root for. I have no allegiance to the Bengals, and I could not help myself from rooting for the Bengals all playoffs last year.
Yep, me too. I wanted them to win it so bad.
They're just so
it's one of those things where
even their fucking kicker. Like he's like, guess we're going to the AFC Championship game. Like they're just a fun team to root for.
I think Joe Burrow's right where he should be, kind of a top 5, top 6 guy.
He finished with 4,634 last year.
So you have Hurts as your number 3. Where do you have Burrow? Is he close? I mean, is he top 5 for you?
I got Joe Burrow 4.
Okay.
And I have Lamar Jackson 5.
Okay.
I have Mahomes, I have Mahomes 6.
Is Lamar a bit of a forgotten guy at this point?
No.
I mean, if he's consistently going kind of top 5, top 6 too. So I mean, he's up there.
I just think that the rushing upside is very similar to Hurts, in my opinion, in terms of fantasy production.
And I don't see it, dude. I think Lamar is on a different level than anybody.
The weapons around Hurts are significantly better. You got Andrews and then an unproven Bateman. That's it. You're rocking with fucking Duvernay as your number 2. That's all I'm saying.
I think they do it differently, Josh. It's like the way that they get those yardage looks differently, but you look at the stat sheet at the end of the game and Hurts has 90 yards rushing and Lamar has 90 yards rushing. And Lamar had a flashy spin move and he fucking like smoked a few guys and made them fucking break their ankles. Whereas Hurts just kind of took off to the outside and jogged for a first down, did it again. And it just kind of like slow burn throughout the year.
Ran a 4.3.
Yeah, no, I like Hurts. I wanted the Raiders
freak.
I love Derek Carr, but I wanted the Raiders to take Hurts in the second round when he was coming out because I thought he would be the perfect developmental guy, take over in a year or two, kind of a thing, 2-3 years, take over. I think I love Hurts. And I have him high too. I just don't. I have other guys up there with him. But we agree on the love for Hurts. I love Hurts.
Yeah, another thing, obviously, with Joe Burrow, 2 stud receivers, right? Like you have 2 bona fide studs.
Yeah.
Each one of them could be a wide receiver 1 on 25 of, Chase could be the wide receiver 1 on every single team in the NFL. T. Higgins could be the wide receiver 1 on 25 teams in the NFL, maybe more. Like they're both ridiculous. They're both young. You got Boyd as a dominant slot guy. You got Joe Mixon. They've increased the quality of their offensive line. They went out and signed Lyle Collins, Ted Karras, a few starters from a few other teams, which was their one leaky point. The worry, I guess, maybe people have is that their running game is going to be much better. And that Mixon's just going to fucking eat. And
he did last year.
I'm ultra high on Joe Mixon, but I just think he's going to see even more volume. He's trusting his knee even more. Here's one big downfall. He finished his QB8 last year, right? He had 118 rushing yards, less than Mac Jones. Okay. Yeah. Everybody hates on Mac Jones because he's the fucking quintessential Tom Brady. He will never get you a single yard. Every one of those 118 was a fucking QB sneak, right? Like he's not the guy. But I think Burrow's more athletic than those numbers show. I think he's starting to trust his knee. I think that's the biggest reason for that. And if he can get you Herbert level rushing totals or close to 300 yards, 350 yards on the ground, maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns, that's enough to propel his 4,840, which I think he is a lock to get, in my opinion, to that. Like, dude, Joe Burrow could be quarterback 1. Wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
Would not be shocked one bit. But because of his lack of rushing upside, before we see it, he's safe, but I'm not quite sure he gives you until we see it that like QB1. That's what Josh Allen. Josh Allen's good for 4,840 himself, but he also gets you 808 on the ground. Like, that's just ridiculous. Joe Burrow's not quite there, and neither is Herbert. So that's why I don't think anybody can dethrone the king from QB1 with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But Joe Burrow, man, sure could make a case for QB2.
So, do we want to, like, we're talking about Joe Burrow, we're talking about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Do we think T. Higgins might almost be a little bit overhyped though in this scenario? Because I love T. Higgins. I think he's great. But he's going like RB9. Running back. Wide receiver, like not RB running back. He's going wide receiver like 9, 10.
I get a little juice.
You want some more Buffalo?
It's just one of those things where I go, like Lauren was saying with who's the guy you were saying, just a little too rich for my blood. I think T. Higgins as like a wide receiver 9. I might just be a little bit too high for me. I think last year he had a really good year with Jamar Chase there. How much more of an uptick are they going to get?
Enough. I think T. Higgins and Jamar Chase will absolutely be the top duo in fantasy football. And I think we've seen it time and time again. We've seen Eric Decker and Demaryius Thomas do it 2 or 3 times with Peyton Manning. We've seen TJ Hushmanzada and Chad Ochocinco do it multiple times with Carson Palmer. We've seen it done time and time again. And we saw it in Chicago with fucking Allen Robinson and who was the other scrub in Chicago?
You're talking about Mooney?
Alshon Jeffrey.
Oh, Alshon Jeffrey.
Allen Robinson and Alshon. Like, we've seen it happen. If there's any duo that can do it, there's no reason for me to believe that both guys can't be wide receiver 1s.
Yeah, no, I think that T. Higgins has potential to be wide receiver 1. It's tough because, like we've already said, like T. Higgins could realistically score more than Jamar Chase. Like the talent is there. He is a stud.
Did it over Chad Ochocinco.
But Joe Burrow had 5.
There's no debate that Chad.
He had 500 and Joe Burrow had 520 attempts last year. Yeah. Does he have that much more?
No, not that much more. No, but
so then how does their production increase that much then?
Well, he wasn't practicing at this time last year. And Jamar Chase hadn't played football for over 500 days and couldn't catch a ball because
but I'm talking about the split of the pie. The pie's not going to get much bigger.
I think it's going to get about 60 to 80 pass attempts bigger.
So you're putting him at 600 pass attempt range.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. I think they're going to up the play.
You're talking about Joe Mixon eating too. I mean,
yeah. Oh,
it's tough because I love all of these guys, but
Mixon's going to eat because he's going to see 15 plus touchdowns. Yeah. I think the Bengals are going to make a case for the number 1 ranked offense in the entire NFL. That's how. Just like the Chargers. Eckler saw 20 touchdowns last year that didn't hold back Keenan Allen and Mike Williams from getting theirs. Granted, they didn't do what I think T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are going to do, but Eckler saw 20 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think Mason's going to get 15. I think there's plenty to go around. And I think Joe Burrow is there's no tight end. Nobody. So you literally have Chase, Higgins, Boyd. If he throws for 4,800 touchdown or 4,800 yards, there's plenty to go around.
Yeah. I like Higgins. I think he might just be just a smidge overhyped. Like, I don't know. Like his ADP is like wide receiver 9.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I think he can be like 12, 13, somewhere in that range, 14 maybe, which is still really, really good.
So you're splitting hairs. I'm not on this. Yeah. On this next take. I think somebody who is criminally underhyped is Jameis Winston.
Not going to get any argument from
He's currently the betting favorite for comeback player of the year. And that's why I think he's getting hype. Like he's the favorite for comeback player of the year. There's no shortage of people like looking at the guy.
But no one's pulling the trigger on him.
He's surrounded with Michael Thomas, who even if he can be somewhat similar to who he was, Chris Olave, your boy, Jarvis Landry, Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. Yes, they lost their stud left tackle, but their offensive line is still good. Their defense is still good. He's currently being drafted behind Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Tua, and Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
I think he deserves to be in the same exact category, as high as I am on both of them, as Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins. I think he is in that same exact tier. Yeah. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Tua, Matt Ryan, all these other guys are being drafted ahead of him. Absolutely out of control, but I'll take it because that just means more and more value for Jameis Winston. Look, dude, Jameis Winston last year, dude, he played with fucking AFL level talent, Marcus Callaway, Smith. Yeah. He averaged 17.5 fantasy points per game before he got hurt. That would have been good for QB 14 last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Same exact place that those Derek Carrs and Kirk Cousins finished. Okay. That's with scrubs. He was also 6th highest in passer rating before he got hurt. And he had career lows in turnover rate. Okay.
You got that LASIK, right, Lauren?
Shit's adding up.
Yeah. Now he got LASIK.
He wasn't seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing is he's shown he can do it. Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr never have. That's another case you can make, right? Jameis Winston finishes QB3 in 2019.
Oh, yeah.
If you can surround the guy with talent, there's no reason to believe he can't throw from 5,040.
Talk about supporting 2 number 1s. I mean, you had Mike Evans and Chris Godwin with career years that year that he was airing it out when he went 30 for 30.
Now I'd make a case both of those guys are better than any receiver he has in his core now.
But he's just shown that if you give him the talent, he can perform.
Yes. Now, look, I wouldn't die on this hill. I really wouldn't. But I'm getting a lot of Jameis Winston, and I think Jameis Winston can be a quarterback 1 this year.
Yeah, he could be QB 11, 12, somewhere in the fringe QB 1. The crazy thing is a lot of people.
I think Jameis Winston can outscore Dak Prescott this year, and you're getting him 6 rounds later.
I think he is being criminally underhyped, like you said, or like underdrafted, I would say, because it's weird that he is being hyped. A lot of people are talking about him, but nobody's pulling the trigger on him. And I don't know why.
He's been injured the last 2. Well, not the last 2 years. He was injured last year. And the year before that, he came to New Orleans to sit behind Drew Brees.
He was the backup.
And be a backup and kind of create a career.
He hasn't really been relevant in the last couple of years.
It's been 2 years. I think there's recency bias in the values favor. He hasn't shown anything in 2 years, but the year before he didn't show anything. He was the QB3.
Yeah. You mean when Dak Prescott was the QB2 and has shown that he could do it, and then he hasn't really shown it in the last couple of years, and there's recency bias, and you're putting
drafted in the 3rd round, and Jameis is drafted in the 8th or 9th. So
just saying, you're talking about QBs like finishing super high, and you are confident Jameis is going to do it. And you're not confident.
Here's the thing: I don't think Dak is being overvalued. I think slightly, but I think he is what he is. I think he's at like good quarterback.
Oh no, I don't think he's being overvalued
he's like
either.
Low end quarterback 1. Where he's being drafted.
Yeah.
Jameis Winston, I think, could very well make a case for that same exact finish, and yet is being drafted
6 rounds later.
6 rounds later. I also think he has more talent at the wide receiver position. He has a better receiving running back, and arguably just a better system overall. Either way, love Jameis Winston, man. I cannot get enough of the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I find myself coming out of most mock drafts with him on my roster.
God, he's a steal.
Yeah.
Especially if you can pair him with a high upside guy early in drafts, like, or even even a safer guy. Yeah. Because Jameis obviously brings a little risk. He hasn't shown anything in 2 years. If you can get like an Aaron Rodgers and then pair him with a Jameis Winston, like that's a pretty safe package you got there.
Yeah.
And and both guys are coming at values, honestly. Yeah, so that's my undervalued guy at the quarterback position for sure, and I hope it stays that way.
Do you have an overhyped QB?
I do not. I couldn't.
I don't either. I don't think there's anyone that's.
Dak was so obvious it wasn't even worth writing down. But
he's not overhyped though, like you just said. He's right where he should be. I know.
I'm kidding.
I know.
No, I didn't really. Nobody stood out at the quarterback position, and it's kind of hard. Obviously, you got 32 starting quarterbacks.
I feel like this year the QBs are all ranked just right. Really do.
And it's pretty much where they should be. Deep as ever.
Yeah. I mean, you got your guys that are in that middle of the pack that some guys have a higher preference on, obviously. Like Torrey feels very highly about Hurts and has him in the top 5, whereas most people don't. But you can make it's easy to make the case for that at the same time.
So. Right. Well, and even later than that, like, dude, you're getting Carr as the quarterback 13, 14.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins in that same range. Jameis Winston at quarterback 20.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Yeah. How can you make the case to reach for a guy
in a redraft? Why would you pick a quarterback
like
in the first 10 rounds?
In the second when you can get Jameis in the 10th?
I never have. Yeah. I've never taken a quarterback high in a redraft ever. I just don't see the value in it.
So we'll keep going musical chairs. Who do you have as your next player?
So you guys don't hate me. All right. Don't hate me. I've been super big. We've been talking about Dak,
Jarvis Landry here.
No. Not even close. I've been super high on Dak. I put Dak and CD as my number 2.
Yeah.
Dak. Love them. However, I think CD's a little bit overhyped. Just a little bit. They got him. His ADP is like wide receiver 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And while I think he can be there, like you were saying with Waddle, I think wide receiver 5 or 6 is his absolute ceiling.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever.
Assuming other players stay healthy, it's tough to find a path where he outscores the big 3 at least. Like,
yeah, Cooper, Jefferson, Chase. But I mean, Debo, you could say maybe yes or no. You could put CD up there just because you don't know. But like guys like Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, like these are all guys that could finish higher than CD.
Yeah. You got to pay a premium for CD this year for sure.
Yeah. And I love CD, and I think him and Dak are going to click. I think if you can get them as a stack, that's why I had them ranked that high. I think Dak finishes really good this year. I think CD finishes really good this year as the clear cut number 1.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like wide receiver 5 is his absolute ceiling. I don't see him ever finishing that high. And that's where he's being drafted. And I just go like, man, as much as I love the guy, he's being a little overhyped. He's being a little overdrafted.
Yeah.
And I just don't see the correlation there.
Yeah. I really debated putting him on this list, and
it doesn't feel like you're getting a great value where he's at.
He's just been so hard for me to predict because like part of me thinks, he is clearly above Diggs and Devontae Adams. He's in the best situation. He's in a pass happy offense. There's fucking nobody behind the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, but like, yeah, he had hype coming out of college, but he's had 2 years and he hasn't done dick. Like he's done good.
Yeah.
He hasn't taken that clear, like, all right, dude, this is the guy.
What Jamar Chase did in his
situation didn't change.
Yeah.
He still has Dak. He still has McCarthy. Quite frankly, he's going to see better coverage this year. So it's like, I agree with you, man. I think that he's being drafted as the top of tier 2. And while he very well could finish as QB or as wide receiver 4, I don't think I would be shocked.
No,
he could also finish as like that wide receiver 9-10 range, which is still a happy finish. But with where you're drafting him and what you got to pay, that's definitely an overhype for sure. I agree.
Yeah. You're drafting him early 2nd round, and the value just isn't quite there. I don't think, I don't see it. And I love him. I think he's a great stack with Dak, but
it's hard to pull the trigger on him because you don't feel like you're getting a great value where he's going. You're like, all right, this is where he belongs, but you're hoping to get a guy where you're like, I just got to steal. It just doesn't feel like that.
You're not getting value.
No.
Yeah. No, I think
if you want to pay to get him, like you're like, I don't care what I have to pay.
Yeah, you're paying full fucking price. You're paying
full price.
Yeah. You're not
and that's the tough part is it's one of those things where I love him to death. I would love to have a Dak CD stack, but I don't want to pay for him. I don't want to pay up for him. If he drops to the third round somehow, I would jump on him in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I'm not taking him. I'm not taking him.
He's going in the second almost every single time. Top end of the second is where you see him go. And I don't think that's going to change at all.
Because then, like we said, you're drafting him at his absolute ceiling. And there's no value there.
You got anybody else, Lauren?
I think the hype is just about right on Gabe Davis. He's super hyped. You haven't heard a guy talked about much more this offseason than him, but I think it's warranted. He's put on like 17 pounds of muscle. He's up to 227 pounds. He's been hitting the weights hard.
Love it.
He's got a ton of targets coming his way. And people talk about Jamison Crowder maybe eating into his targets. I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it.
He's 30 years old.
Yeah. The time's up for him.
I can't agree more other than I think he's underhyped.
You think he's underhyped?
Oh, no.
I mean, there's no shortage of hype, and I still think he's underhyped. I think at wide receiver 30, which is where he's ranked right now, he is the
biggest deal.
I'll have to double check. But
I don't think he's wide receiver 30 anymore.
With an eye test,
he's up.
Go look on Fantasy Pros. With an eye test, Gabe Davis is the best value in all of fantasy football. All of fantasy football. Talk about another duo that could finish wide receiver ones. Gabe Davis can fucking do it. I promise you. Every single beat report shows Gabe Davis is a locked in number 2, which they said.
Would you have?
Yeah. In half point PPR, he's in the 30. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So in the last 6 games, while running around on 88% of pass attempts with Josh Allen, he averaged 19.8 points per game. You want to know what that would have been good for last year? Wide receiver 2 overall.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 2. Obviously, that pace might not be replicated, right? Like short sample size. All right, you can make a case that, hey, just like Aaron Jones, he fucking scores 25 fantasy points when Davante Adams is out of the lineup. Maybe it happens, right? But 6 games. So it's tough to make that.
But he's going
case.
Wide receiver 30.
Even if he scores half that,
right,
he will return the exact value where he's being drafted.
But he's being drafted. He's being drafted as wide receiver 30, but he's going in like the 5th round.
Nope. Cortland Sutton, Judy, Bateman, guys like that are going in the 5th. He's going 2 rounds later. You are getting. I don't see him going later in drafts. Now, granted, will he? Not if you're in the fucking league with me. I can promise you that.
Where I'm looking right now is I'm seeing wide receiver 30, and I'm seeing like 5th, like end of 5th round. And
go look at overall rankings, which is where people typically draft. And he's being drafted in right now. Let's see here. It's looking like he's being drafted in like the 6th to 8th round, right in that range.
Where's he on your list of overall rankings?
Oh, I don't have my overall rankings.
Okay. No, I'm saying, with what you were looking at.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
Where is he on Fantasy Pros? If you want to just use that.
Fantasy Pros is good because they take ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper, everything.
You taking Sutton over him?
Yeah, I'm taking Sutton over him.
So where is he as far as overall?
So overall, right now on Fantasy Pros with half PPR, you have him going. Hold on one sec. That's on quarterbacks. Wide receiver 30. Let's see.
You got to look at overall.
You have him going 72nd,
which is 5th round.
12 times 5
is 72.
12 times 5 is 60. So he's going in the bottom,
12 times 6. 12 times 6 is 72. Yeah.
Bottom of the 6th, top of the 7th.
Okay, sixth round.
No,
okay,
72nd pick. Bottom
is the 6th round.
Very bottom, last pick.
The 6th round. That's how you got to look at it. His ADP is 6th round.
I've gotten him in with you guys in the 7th or 8th. That's all I'm saying.
No, I get it.
He's even lower.
No, I get it. I'm just saying I agree with Lauren in a sense that I think wide receiver 31 is too low, but I think if you can get him at top to somewhere in the 6th, if you can get him in the 6th round, I think that's
I'm going to look for value like I do every other pick. I'm not going to go, well, I have him ranked here, so I'm just going to take him. That's not how fantasy is done.
No, I get that.
But Gabe Davis provides more upside at wide receiver 30 than I think any other pick in anywhere near that. Like, yes,
he's one of those guys where you have to have the rankings wherever you get him, whoever you trust, what source, and then you take guys like Gabe Davis and you move him up 10 spots from 70 to 60. Yep. That way, if the other people are looking at the same rankings, you get him over them.
I will reach around or two for Gabe Davis.
So I'm saying you move him up 10 spots on the whatever consensus rankings are, so you make sure you have him on your squad.
Yeah. Here's another thing, right? The receiver core, right? Before it was like Emmanuel Sanders, we had Cole Beasley. Last year, Gabe Davis, people said the same thing about, which is why people are a little bit scarred, just like CMC, just like a few other guys, right? It was like, yeah, but they said this about him last year. You want to know who's behind Gabe Davis? Okay, you got a 30-year-old fucking Jamison Crowder who's been banged up the last 3 years.
Yep.
Behind him, you got Khalil Shakir, rookie out of Boise State, Tavon Austin, and Isaiah McKenzie. Dawson Knox, sure, he's a red zone target. He's going to get his. But Josh Allen can support plenty of fantasy production. Even if Diggs, let's see here. Even if Diggs gets 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns, more than he got last year.
Yeah.
That leaves 3,000 yards and 25 touchdowns. Okay. Yeah. Only assuming Josh Allen throws for 4,535, which is about average. Yeah. No increase, no nothing. He stays right where he's at. I think 1,310 go to Davis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so here, okay, so here's the thing. 1,310
go to Davis. That's wide receiver 7, 8, 9 range. And I think that's very well within the realm of possibility. Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked one bit.
Quick game. Do you I'm going to just start naming off receivers that are ahead of him. Tell me if you would take Gabe Davis over Michael Thomas.
Yes.
Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Amari Cooper.
Yes.
Yep.
Darnell Mooney.
Yep. I would.
Probably. Yeah.
Allen Robinson.
Maybe not Allen Robinson. I think I'd have Robinson a tad a bit higher.
Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
You would take Gabe over Brandon Cooks?
Yes. And as I'll be on the record. Yeah. I love Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
But he is what he is.
Would you take Gabe over Cortland Sutton?
No.
Deontay Johnson?
Yes.
See, now you're getting into guys like Deontay Johnson, Mike Williams.
I would take Gabe Davis over Deontay Johnson.
DK Metcalf,
Terry McLaurin, all those guys, all of them.
Which is crazy because those guys are all like wide receiver.
I don't have to
because he won't be there.
That's what makes him some of the best value ever. But would I take him if a gun was pointed to my head? Yeah.
Ideally, you skip on the DKs and those guys. You get a running back in that round.
The third or fourth round guys,
like
those guys, you're skipping, and you're waiting until the 6th. 5th, 6th. Hopefully, you can get a Jeudy or a Sutton in the 5th, and you can get Davis in the 6th. I'm fucking elated.
Yeah.
If I can leave with 2 of 3 of those guys.
But that's what kind of I think where you were saying, Lauren, or where you're getting at is like if you're getting him in like that 6th round, I think that's kind of right where he's being drafted. And I think you're happy with that. So I think that he's
hope the hype doesn't
kind of right. He's kind of right where he is being drafted is kind of where you're going to take him. For the most part,
he will not finish as wide receiver 30.
No, I don't think so either. I think
that's the whole thing. He's being drafted, unlike some other players, at his floor. If he finishes half of what he's shown to be able to do, that's wide receiver 30 last year. Yeah. Kendrick Bourne, 9.8 points per game, wide receiver 30.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis is a guarantee for that. So worst case scenario, you draft him at his floor.
You got him where you got him.
All right, real quick. If you know that everybody in our draft is high on Gabe Davis and you know that everyone's reaching on him, what's the highest you go?
4th round.
4th round?
It'd be hard. I mean, I obviously want to get some value with some of these guys. Like, obviously, that's the whole point. But knowing what I know and being on this podcast and talking about all this with all of our league mates, it gives us a bit of a disadvantage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You talking about redraft or dynasty?
In either.
Dynasty, I would go 4th. I think in redraft, I'd probably go 5th. I mean, Dynasty, he's tied to Josh Allen. He's young.
He's 23.
He's super young. And I don't know how long Diggs sticks around. They paid him a ton of money.
But he is 28.
Gabe could end up being.
Diggs could be that complimentary piece.
Yeah, Dave,
in years to come.
It could be
the roles could switch legitimately. In the next couple of years.
I would have him a little higher in a dynasty, and I think five would be about as high as I'd go in a redraft.
Yeah.
So here's another guy I got that I hate to just seem so neutral, but I think the hype is like kind of right, but like I'm just like not excited, and that's Jonathan Taylor. And the reason why
hype is right at number 1 overall, but you're not excited.
That's what I'm saying. He's hyped. Obviously, he's the consensus 1-1. Like I don't really hear much argument. It's the 1-1. He's the 1-1. He's the 1-1. Here's some counterpoints. I didn't come up with them. I don't necessarily agree or disagree, but here's some things to consider. Okay. The average overall running back 1 has averaged 4.7 receptions per game in the last 10 years. Every RB1.
Yeah.
Taylor averaged 2.4 last year, which ranked 89th out of 120 top 12 running backs in the last decade. Okay. The lack of receiving work obviously isn't getting any better with Nyheim Hines coming, back from injury. Nyheim Hines is the receiving back, period. Period. So even if Matt Ryan dumps the ball off a little bit more, which he's proven to do, I think
it's not going to all go to Jonathan Taylor.
Nyheim Hines, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
The other thing is Todd Gurley's the only running back in the last 10 years to score 18 touchdowns and then score the same or more in the following season. The average drop off after scoring 18 touchdowns is a 9 touchdown drop off. The average. That means it's cut in half.
They go from 19
to
11.
Jonathan Taylor would have scored 9 touchdowns instead of 18 last year. How that would change things. Right now, I'm not expecting those things, and I'm not telling people to not draft Jonathan Taylor 1-1.
What you're saying is you're drafting meta ceiling once again.
But
we keep talking about this.
But I think Jonathan Taylor is sitting on a hill because of the risks that he doesn't carry, which durability is part of the game, risk part of the game. You have to bake that in.
But he's the only one so far that hasn't shown it, so that's why he's going there.
There would be no question CMC would be the 1-1.
If Derrick Henry would be 2.
Derrick Henry, same thing. Both of those guys for sure. You could even make a case for Dalvin Cook, but because of Dalvin Cook only pretty much giving you 13, 14 a year, it's tough.
Well, that's the thing. It's funny because I thought about putting Jonathan Taylor on the list. But I was kind of in the same boat as you were. I'm like, he's the consensus 1-1, and I would be happy taking him at 1-1. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know I'm not taking him 1-1 and being stoked like 2 years ago when you were taking CMC at 1-1. When you took CMC at 1-1, you were like, I'm winning the championship.
You were begging for the first pick.
Yes. You're like, I'm winning the championship.
Is astronomical when CMC is on the field.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you were excited about that. And I think with Jonathan Taylor, you're happy about it, but you're like, okay.
I think you're happy if you're in this camp. And there's people that are in this camp, and I feel like the majority of them are in this camp. And that's you can't win your league in round 1, but you can lose it. There's the people that think that way. Like no matter what you do, even if you nail your pick, you can't win it in round 1. But you can certainly lose it. Because if your round 1 pick goes down because you picked a guy who's fucking injury prone, it's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And that's why Jonathan Taylor is the 1-1. Because with CMC, it's such a fucking massive payoff if he hits.
Yeah.
If you get him with the second or third pick, and he gives you 14 games, he probably wins you a league.
If he gives you 14 games, he probably finishes at RB1.
That's what I'm saying. He probably wins you a league because of 30. He scores 30 points a week.
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor's good for 22, 23, and that's amazing. But
he would finish at RB2 or 3.
Durable guy. We're assuming all these things. So, dude, he's probably the 1-1 in my book. It's just it's kind of a bummer though, as I feel like you're not excited taking him, but you need to.
Yeah, there's no other option.
He is so much sexier of a pick, but he can totally fuck you if he is who we think.
If someone took CMC 1-1, people would lose their mind. People would be like, what are you doing? But I'm saying is like the majority of people are going to be like, what are you doing? Why would you take him? And that, and it's like this, it's this super risky pick.
I'm super thankful I'm not at the 1-1 because that's a tough decision for me. I also don't know if I could be such a big fucking pussy that I couldn't bring myself to taking the guy who would win me a league if he hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
So
I completely agree with you on him.
I think he's hard to argue against the 1-1.
And redraft, if you draw the 1-1, are you trying to trade out of that spot if possible? If someone wants to make a move, I kind of feel that way too. Because I'm just not real excited about JT at 1.
It's weird because this is one of the first seasons that I can remember where the 1-1 guy, which is the consensus 1-1, isn't like this super sexy pick that everyone is just in love with.
It was Le'Veon Bell, right? And then it was David Johnson,
Todd Gurley,
and then Todd Gurley. Like I feel like those guys were just so much more like alluring than Jonathan Taylor.
And then it was Derrick Henry for a little bit.
Jonathan
then it
Taylor
was
threw up 350 points last year. Dominant.
Yeah, Derrick Henry with his 2,000 yards.
Yeah,
people were so stoked. And then CMC
in 2019, 420 points.
Yeah,
and he's been working out with Marshall Faulk this offseason, trying to develop a diet, all sorts of shit. Like Marshall Faulk did it over and over and over again, and he was putting up 1,000 and 1,000 over and over again. So he's with the right mentor.
Yeah.
We'll see if that changes anything. And on the same team, really quickly, Michael Pittman, right? Did we already touch on him?
No, we have not. Yeah. We've talked about him,
at length.
Yeah, he's someone we're all high on.
We don't need to touch on him too much because of the recent discussion. He might be the most hyped player too.
Where do you put him? Do you put him as right where he should be? Because right now he's
like the hype is right.
I agree.
Target of mine.
Yep.
He's being drafted right outside of the wide receiver 1.
Yep. Wide receiver 13. Yep.
He has no competition for targets. He finishes wide receiver 15 last year. Very similar situation in principle to Javonte Williams. Like he did it last year, wide receiver 15 with Wentz. He has no competition this year. He got Matt Ryan. Their team is going to be better.
Yeah.
What makes me think he can't be better?
No, he will be.
What is pointing? So I think he's being drafted kind of where he should be. The hype is exact to where he should be. You're not going to get a discount on him. You're not. He's not a value, but he's a guy that you feel really happy about getting in the third. He's
a guy that if he finishes at wide receiver 13, which is where he's being ranked, you're happy. If he finishes a little bit higher, you're more happy. And if he finishes just a smidge lower at like 14, 15, you're not super bummed.
He doesn't kill your team.
Yeah. So he's kind of right in that range.
There's 3 players right now. I'll go on record saying I'd rather have Pittman over, and that's 3 guys that are way sexier picks. I'd rather have Pittman over Tyreek Hill, Debo, and AJ Brown. I'd take Pittman over all 3 of those guys.
I agree on Debo and Tyreek. I still think AJ is going to shock the world this year. But yeah, I would take Pittman over those guys too.
I wouldn't take Pittman over any of them.
Really?
I would take all 3 of them above Pittman myself.
Because
are you low on Pittman, Lauren, or?
No, I just think he's a middle level talent, and I think those 3 guys are far superior alpha male talents on the field. Like they're so much better than everyone else, and he's just not. He's a good receiver.
I agree.
Those 3 guys demand the ball because of their talent. I don't think he does. I think he's just going to be a guy that Matt Ryan can rely on because he's a good, solid route runner and he got soft hands and all that stuff. But like those guys are game breaking players. I think you're crazy to put him above them.
I know, and I feel crazy doing so.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even necessarily. I hope I'm not put in the spot, but the benefit is that all 3 of those guys.
I want to see you draft if all 4 of those guys are sitting in the cloud.
Well, the thing is that's the thing.
Here's the thing, though, is they never will be.
They never will be. Yeah. So what you're going to do is you're going to pass on the Tyreek Hill and the AJ Brown and the Debo, and then you're going to
understandable.
You're going to take Pittman. You're going to pass on those guys.
But to say you flat out have Pittman ranked higher, that would be crazy.
If I had to put money that Pittman would finish higher, I would. Let's put it that way.
I would too.
But I would not put it over Pittman at the top end of the second round.
No, I would bet
all
that
of these
Pittman,
guys are going.
Correct. I would bet that Pittman finishes over Tyreek Hill and Debo. Yeah. I think he has the potential to do so. But yeah, I think he's right.
Bet.
You what?
Whenever you want to make that bet.
You go on the opposite, the inverse of that.
Well, you got to give me positive odds, obviously, just like Vegas would.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Up. One last guy. Do you have anybody else, Josh?
I'm kind of, my list is kind of tapped out. Yeah.
So I have one last guy at the position we haven't touched on yet. Well, we did. We touched on Schultz. I got Kyle Pitts as again, man. I just I feel so weak. Keep saying this, but like, there's no shortage of hype. But I even think he's a little underhyped. I really do.
So you're going on the underhype.
Yeah, but just fringe. Like, obviously he's not a discount. You're not like stealing this guy late in drafts. But I think he's ahead of two guys that are in the discussion of being drafted ahead of him, and Darren Waller and George Kittle. I would take Pitts as the clear tight end 3, and I wouldn't think about it. I would not think about Waller or Kittle over Pitts in this situation.
No. Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious too. I think it goes, but that's the thing is, would you take him over Kelsey and Andrews?
No.
So then how is he underhyped? If he's the clear 3.
Well, I'm not sure.
I don't see how he's underhyped. I think
Kittle and Waller being in the discussion of being
okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because
again, this is mainly he's hyped and let's talk about him, not like I think he's not being respected type of conversation.
So we can say he's right where he should be. I think the hype is right.
But I think here's the tough part, right? Is a lot of people are like, oh, well, gosh, you went from Matt Ryan last year to Mariota or Ritter this year.
Yeah.
I don't think that affects him at all. 0%.
No.
Their receiving core got better. London's going to demand a little bit more attention than Russell Gage or Olamide fucking Zacchaeus, whatever that dude's name is. I don't even know who he is.
Zacharias or something or whatever it is. Yeah.
They brought in London, obviously, with the 8th pick. They traded for Bryan Edwards, your boy.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think Bryan Edwards is going to be solid.
So here's kind of a crazy thing, right? Kyle Pitts led every single player in yards per route run out wide in the entire NFL. He's a wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's a fucking wide receiver being drafted at a tight end position that has a clear positional advantage. You would not shock me one bit if Pitts finished as tight end 1. If Kittle or Waller did, I'd be a little bit shocked. I don't think Pitts would shock me though. I mean,
if Kittle stayed healthy for 17 games, I think he is.
I just don't. I think he's so much better of a football player than he is a true fantasy god
asset.
Yeah,
he's the best.
His biggest asset is his blocking, and that doesn't show up. That doesn't show up on fantasy at all.
He's great. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Kittle.
He's an amazing football player.
But Pitts is just a fucking wideout.
Yeah.
That you get to draft as a tight end. Dude, more than Debo, Jefferson, and Devontae Adams as yards per route run out wide.
That's insane. Okay?
Yeah. And double Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Double.
Kelce spends all his time in the slot.
So that, and he only had 1 touchdown last year.
Which is insane.
The tight end 6 as a rookie.
Yeah. That number goes up, and no one doubts that.
I assume a safe number is 4 or 5, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it wouldn't be out of the question to see 10.
No.
It wouldn't be out of the question to see double-digit touchdowns for a dude of his caliber.
He could double his last season total in week 1. He could have 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, 100%, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be truly. This is mainly a dynasty take, but even in redraft, I think this is going to be the last chance you ever get drafting Pitts in the 3rd round. He will be a bona fide, just like Kelce. He will be a bona fide.
In dynasty, he's not going in the 3rd.
No, I know. No, in redraft, I'm saying.
Oh, redraft.
In redraft, this is the last chance ever that you will ever get him in the 3rd. I think he's a locked and loaded Kelce type.
Next, come the year, come 2023, he's fringe round 1 like Kelce has been.
And in dynasty, I think he deserves to be grouped into the value of Chase and Jefferson. I've said it before. Obviously, we've talked about this before, but I really do think there's a case to be made to take him above those 2 guys. And I'm not saying I would still take Jefferson and Chase above him. I'll say it, but there's a case to be made just because of the positional value.
I'll tell you this right now. I mean, I'll say it. In our dynasty league, I have the 7th pick, and Pittman is someone that I keep considering.
Pitts.
Not knowing if Pitts, not knowing if I will take him, but he's someone that I'm going,
you have to
I could
about him.
I could, and in that
10-year lock at a fucking position that's so muddy, right?
Yep. And So, but in redraft, come after this year, you're never getting him in the 3rd again. It's going to be fringe 1st round pick from here on out for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So the value at this point is as good as it's ever going to get.
Lauren, could you ever bring yourself to picking Pitts over Chase or Jefferson?
No.
At 5? in Dynasty.
He didn't even think about it.
No,
not at 5. He ain't picking any one of those guys.
No,
but you really couldn't. Like, there's just nothing. I mean, are you worried about the talent? Like, what are you worried about?
Yeah, because the talent is
equal, right? Like, he's that elite of a prospect where he's just as elite. You move on from Mariota and you get a guy like CJ.
Look at this year, Lauren. Let's say 3 years from now. Let's say 3 years from now, Kirk Cousins is not on the Vikings and you have no clue who the quarterback's going to be. Does Jefferson's value drop? Whereas with Pitts, as bad as it's going to get is right now at quarterback. It can only get better. It can only get better. So how do you not look at Pitts?
Let's just guess Atlanta sucks. I don't think they're going to suck as bad as some other teams.
Yeah.
Let's just say they just don't piece it together and they get CJ Stroud next year out of Ohio State. Fucking elite prospect. They draft him first overall. And now you have a guy who is elite that you can pair with Kyle Pitts for the next 5 or 6 years, guaranteed.
Yeah, I don't hate the guy. I just wouldn't take him over elite, like basically Hall of Fame level talent wide receivers.
The more I talk about this, the more I think that Chase is more valuable than Jefferson, clearly.
Yes.
And before it was a coin for me. But now that I think about it, you're right. Kirk Cousins could be out of town in 2 years.
And you don't know what's going to, you don't know who's
going anywhere.
Yeah. You don't know who's quarterback. I mean, look at Tyler Lockett.
A decade of dominance.
Look at Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. They had Russell Wilson and then all of a sudden they have Drew Lock. I mean, the same thing could happen to Justin Jefferson. Yeah. You don't know who his quarterback could be.
Not happening to Cincinnati.
No.
Burrow will never leave ever.
Yeah, you don't know who Jefferson's quarterback could be in a couple years, and it could be a shit show.
Yeah, that is.
So that's one of those things where you don't know, and that's where I'm like with Pitts, it's not going to get worse than it is now. It will never be worse than it is now, and so all he can do is go up. Where Jefferson can stay at the top, but he could also dip just because of his quarterback play.
I feel like also they're in a big enough market to where it's worth spending. Like they're in Atlanta. I feel like people kind of have the desire to be in Atlanta.
So you said right there,
like
Lauren, that
fucking,
you wouldn't take him over premier talent, but how do you look at Pitts as not as a premier talent?
No, he is. You're
just looking at a position only.
At wide receiver.
You're just looking at position only.
Yeah, just the volume that's coming their way. Not that Pitts isn't going to get heavily targeted. He is, but I don't know. Just like
you can't bring yourself to draft a tight end over.
Yeah, there's a bit of bias there, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard.
I get it.
It is hard, but it's stupid because honestly, there's been a case to be made the last 4 or 5 years that Kelsey should have been the number 1 pass catcher taken. With the difference between him and the tight end 10 and whoever finishes wide receiver 1 and the wide receiver 10.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear you guys' take.
There's an argument for him over Jefferson. I don't think there's an argument for him over Chase just because him being tied to Burrow and just the dominance that he showed in his rookie year.
Yeah. It's hard to ever assume Chase will ever play for anybody but Cincinnati. Right. Same with Burrow.
Right.
Like, I think that's a lock below. Now, Higgins, I could see him out of town when he wants to get paid.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah.
They're not going to pay 2 receivers $30 million a year.
No.
Not going to happen. Higgins is gone. But Chase, I mean, man, that dude.
We could have the first ever situation in history where a quarterback and wide receiver play together their entire career through college and through the pros.
Did Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison do it?
Did they play in college together?
Oh, not college.
No, that's what you were saying, Lauren. College
and all the way through their pro career.
Yeah,
how cool.
But they didn't get.
Look at this, the yardage they racked up in touchdowns for fucking like a 20-year.
The only caveat would be that Joe Burrow played 1 year in the NFL without Jamar Chase. But
true. But I mean,
but Chase would have never. If that's the case, Chase will have never played with another quarterback through college or the NFL than Joe Burrow. Yeah.
Lucky son of a bitch.
Seriously. Yeah. Life could be worse.
Yeah, it could.
All right, guys. This is a way longer episode than I expected.
Yeah. I was expecting the hype train to be a little bit lower of an episode, but hey, we had fun.
Yeah.
Upcoming, we have one more mock. Next week, we're going to do a really cool mock draft with a dude, Fantasy Football UK in London.
Across the pond, mate.
Yeah, mate. About that time, mate, chap.
We're gonna drink some tea
and talk some crumpets.
We're talk fantasy football, but not the soccer bowl.
It's gonna be fun.
The oblong leather bowl.
We're gonna do a mock with another fantasy football podcast that's over in the UK. Do a little cross
head to head, baby. Right?
Yeah.
Cross the pond.
Is it just one dude, or does he have a co-host?
I think it's one guy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think it's one guy. So it'll be fun to do
gang
that.
up on him.
And then we're going to really get heavy into rankings. That's when we're going to really start diving deep. I think on the episodes, for sake of time, because we can make them fucking 18 hours long, we're just going to do our top 12.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. We'll just do our top 12 on the actual podcast, but Josh and I will release via Instagram, whatever platforms we possibly can, our actual full blown list of rankings, which will go super deep, probably right around that 35 to 50 number on running backs, as deep as like 80 for receivers.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks will just be probably 35 or so, the starters plus a few additional, and then tight end, same thing. So, but we'll get into that. But before, we'll have a little fun. We'll do a little redraft. We'll drink a little fucking sangria.
Yeah.
Bunch of winos in their cellar.
We'll really go hard.
We are a couple of weeks away from training camp. Shit's about to get crazy. We got preseason in a few weeks out. It's gonna happen. It's weird to think that like 3 more episodes from now, we're going to have actual games to talk about.
Yeah. I'm excited for that, man. I can't wait
for preseason than this. Yeah. I mean, being that we've talked about it, we've led up to all of this. So go follow us on Full House Fantasy Football on Instagram. We've been just getting a bit more active on that, having a little bit of fun, making some fun graphics, trying to have some conversation stirred up. Send us DMs on there with any questions that you have. Also, Full House Fantasy Football @gmail.com is another platform that you can send questions to, and just
we have a few spots left in the True Crime Guys Fantasy Football League. If you guys are listening to this and you want in, shoot us an email or a DM on either True Crime Guys Instagram or Full House Fantasy's Instagram, and you can get on. Me, Josh, Tori, we're all in that league together with my co-host on that show, Michael, as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
So there's a couple spots to jump in on the action there and get to play with us. So
tons of fun, but please don't shy away from sending us some DMs. I mean, let's talk about it, man. We're getting really close to training camp, and we'd love to have you be a part.
I'd love to argue with Tori about some of your guys' questions. It's one of those things.
We tend to be on opposite sides of the spectrum, which makes things even more fun. But be part of the community, guys. Full House Fantasy Football. Thanks so much for listening.
Yep. All right, guys. We'll see you next week for a mock with another podcaster from across the pond.
With the British.
Let's do it. All right. See you next week.
All right. Right on. Bye.